I thought that he was going to go through every evidence and submission that was given, which is usually done in the main trial. But I suppose because, we've heard the heads of argument, and there are certain questions that he asked prior to this, whether to the state or to the defense for clarity, he just wanted to just get this part out of the way, and said that, listening to all the evidence and submissions and reading through everything, there is nothing tangible or that speaks to any assault that was made. And based on the evidence that was submitted in court, all the accused seems to have made the statements freely and voluntarily. He also spoke to the fact that when they were given opportunity to interact with other people who were not police officers, that being the magistrate, the translator at the Boksburg Magistrate Court, and the dentist, that they had an encounter with while traveling with the police officers, none of the accused, mentioned that, listen, I'm actually being assaulted by these people that have brought me here. Instead, Danzi spoke about not taking a bath and not contacting his family. And the guy saying, if indeed he was tortured and severely assaulted, as he had stated, those are opportunities for him to have spoken out. Yep. And therefore, there's nothing that speaks to the assault, and he feels that everything was done freely and voluntarily.
In conclusion, what does this mean for the case of the defense, considering that they are denying that these statements were made voluntarily? However, now they will be admitted in the trial.
Well, the judge did emphasize that this ruling is not a judgment that's cast in stone. They still have an opportunity during the main trial to interrogate the actual confessions, and they also have an opportunity to bring in any other witnesses within the main trial. That this evidence does not mean that it's the final ruling, the final judgment. They can interrogate it. They can even convince the judge within the trial that all the evidence that has been led should not stand.
Thank you so much for your time. Paul Makubani, the SABC News reporter. Listening into the conversation is Lumka Mahanjana, who is the NPA's regional spokesperson, which has, of course, welcomed the ruling, saying that they are looking forward to the main trial and also hope that things will now move with speed post today's court ruling. And Lumka, good afternoon. I think that's the crux of the matter, because in October this year, it will be 10 years since Senzo Meyiwa was killed.
Thank you for having me, Aldrin, and good afternoon to your listeners. Indeed, this year it will be 10 years since the tragic killing of Senzo Meyiwa, and we welcome the ruling that was handed down today, and we hope that now there will not be any further delays and that the trial will continue smoothly until we get to the finalization of this matter.
How does this strengthen the state's case, considering that the confession statements have now been admitted as have done voluntarily by the two accused?
Obviously, this is like a small win or a big win for the state, because now we were able to prove that indeed there were no injuries and that the confessions were taken freely and voluntary. So, but because we are in a war, so these are just battles, but we are still looking forward to the bigger war and hope to prove to the court that indeed the 5 accused are guilty of the offences that are charged with.
Yep. Is the state clear as yet whether it will be calling any of the other people who were in the house on that tragic evening?
At this point, I cannot divulge the list of witnesses that will be called by the state to protect them. But I can tell you that the witnesses that took down the confession statements will be called in the main trial to sort of bring now that evidence of the confession statements to the court.
Just finally, on 702, Clement Manyatela was in conversation with Chico Twala, the father of Longwe Twala, and he said that the police had come out to speak to him, and they are looking at putting him on the list of the state witness. Can you confirm if that is indeed the case?
Like I said earlier, I cannot confirm the list of the witnesses that are still yet to be called, just to protect them and protect their identity until they are called.
Thank you so much for your time. That is Lumka Mahanjana, who is the NPA's regional spokesperson here in Gauteng. 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032.
Did you know that load shedding only happens when electricity demand exceeds supply? Eskom's team of specialists manages the grid 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to protect the electricity network. You can help reduce load shedding stages by continuing to use less electricity, particularly between 5 and 9 in the morning and evening when demand is high. Government and Eskom working hard to reduce and ultimately end load shedding.
Fly better to your next holiday. Book your flights with Emirates to a holiday in Dubai, London, Istanbul, or Paris. Look forward to delicious regionally inspired cuisine, enjoy free-flowing premium drinks, and relax to your favorite movies on the way. Because it's not just about the destination, it's how you get there. This year, fly Emirates. Fly better.
Look for the Go Digital logo in the new digital television set you are buying and access free-to-air channels without an additional decoder if you live in an area with digital terrestrial network coverage. Hashtag Chinja Ungasali. Hashtag Go Digital. For more information, you can send a WhatsApp message to 06 00625 458 or you can call 0860 736 832. You can also email support@sentech.co.za, webchat www.sentech.co.za, or Facebook Messenger @Sentech Ltd.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032.
The only talk radio afternoon drive show that makes sense. Beyond the headline with Aldrin Sampear, right here on SAFM. SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
Philani, good morning. I should actually call you Mr. Mayor, shouldn't I?
Well, you can, but you never know in this day. You are a mayor today, you are not a mayor tomorrow.
You want to talk about water? Go for it.
Steve, every reservoir for a city like Joburg will have something that is called telemetry. It measures the level or the content of water or the volume of water in every reservoir. Now, it's impossible that a reservoir will run out of water completely without anyone noticing. The telemetry system will inform them.
Palani Mavundla is the mayor of the Mvoti local municipality, also leader of the ABC.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hello, Aldrin. I think it makes absolutely no sense why a seasoned killer would confess to killing somebody without any duress, without any plea bargain of any sort. What was it there for these killers to confess? What did they stand to gain? Was it some sort of divine absolvement they were seeking? I don't buy this. Stalin in PMB.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
23 minutes after 3 o'clock. In conversation next with Brendan Peterson, who's a technology editor of Reframed. So, in the world news today, the U.S. House of Representatives have finally passed a bill aimed at banning TikTok in the U.S. However, for some, this came as no surprise, as several politicians have been pushing for the ban after concerns that the social media platform poses a national security threat. Brendan, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. Does it come as a surprise at all for you that it was an overwhelming majority of the members who passed this bill?
No, it's one of the few things that actually didn't come as any surprise to me, considering relations between China and the U.S., over the past couple of years.
Yeah. What does this mean, though, also considering, again, that TikTok and its CEO have been saying over and over again that there's no interference by the Chinese government, and he has no association whatsoever with the Communist Party?
Yeah, I mean, that last part of that question obviously was something that was heavily debated and criticized, just a few weeks ago when we saw him sitting there in front of the Senate and they kept asking about the connections, and he's saying, I'm from Singapore, that's a completely different country. But in terms of the first half of that question, we've heard this exact question with another massive Chinese company that, the U.S. tried to ban and successfully did, which is Huawei. So again, the question I think that gets asked is this really about that, or is it really about the sort of Cold War that seems to be brewing and escalating between the U.S. and China, and sort of technology sovereignty? Because that's really what I think this is actually about. Yeah,
and looking at, for instance, the decision by the U.S. government telling its employees not to use the app on any of their work devices, but then back in 2022, ByteDance, the owners of TikTok, confirming that they'd used it to monitor Western journalists' physical locations.
Yes, and I remember, everything that came out of that story, which obviously is not what you want to hear. But I think the flip side of that is we all seem to forget in this conversation that, look at a company like Meta, for example, look at a lot of the American, technology giants, where Meta alone was fined billions of dollars for leaking data, and it's a thing that's constantly happened year on year on year, with them in various different capacities and other companies. Why do we not see the same concern around, safety, security with those companies which are American versus this being a company from China?
Yeah, well, some of these apps actually, ironically, are banned in China. I wonder what that means. Also, again, considering that one of the ministers in China was arguing that this decision by the U.S. lawmakers, and finally, if Biden does sign it into law, which he said he would be a contravention of international trade law as well as stifle competition.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you look at, just look at the competition sort of situation, for example. If you look at what's been happening, TikTok obviously sort of popularized the short form video content thing that we're seeing sort of blown up on the internet, whether it's YouTube Shorts, Instagram Stories, all of those things. But also, it's led to a lot of people being able to make a living off of these platforms, and part of that is because there's such a big viewing base in the US. Look at what happened with, Tyler's song, where that blew up, it became a massive hit for her. What happens when you don't have that US audience and that massive sort of reach in terms of eyeballs to be able to popularize a lot of content, to be able to uplift, smaller artists and content creators? I think there's a massive knock-on impact here that's not being looked at.
Yeah. So, and that's the point that has been made by the CEO of TikTok as well. But I don't know how far that would go. We did see, for instance, outside the capital, that there have been protests by U.S. citizens. Also with posters, some of them, for instance, saying that I'm one of the 140 million subscribers of TikTok. I have a business that survives off TikTok. And considering that we're going into an election year, or this is an election year, Biden, of course, is looking for re-election. Trump before also once said that he wanted to ban TikTok, didn't go forward with that. I wonder what this means for these two men who want to actually win over the popular vote.
We had the same question again many years ago when we were in exactly the same situation with Biden versus Trump, and we had another big, massive Chinese company, which again was Huawei. I think the assumption was that if Biden wins, then he might reverse the decision. Clearly, that didn't happen. I think he's going to take a hardline approach on this. I don't think he's going to budge on this, because I think the smart move then politically would be, okay, we've done this, but we have YouTube Shorts. We have an American company. We can work with them to help assist those creators who maybe lost some sort of income, and this is great for YouTube and for Google, which I think is a win they desperately need right now.
Thank you so much for your time. That is the technology editor of Reframe, Brendan Peterson. What do you make of this? 0614-104107. You can also drop me a text or an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032.
#SAFMBTH. Whether we are at the workplace, within communities, at school, or with our friends and family, we all need to demonstrate the kind of responsibility that we would like to see in our country's future. SAFM commemorates Human Rights Month. You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
It's a couple of seconds before 3:30, time for the news headlines.
Good afternoon, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the bodies of 4 suspected illegal miners have been found in 2 separate areas on Gauteng's West Rand. 3 bodies with gunshot wounds were discovered this morning in Muhlaking, in an area known as an illegal mining hotspot. A charred body was also found in Florida, west of Johannesburg. The initiator of the hearing into the 9 EFF MPs has recommended they should be found guilty for their conduct during President Cyril Ramaphosa's budget vote speech and debate on the 9th and 10th of June 2022. And the IFP says their win in 3 by-elections in Newcastle in northern KwaZulu-Natal will bring increased stability to the council. I'll have details on these and other stories at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And it's time for an update and look at what's happening on the roads with Rob Byrne. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Aldrin. Good afternoon. Heavy pressure on Joburg's N3 going south today. It's a breakdown just between...
Rob, can you still hear us? Okay, we seem to have lost the connection there to Rob, and we'll try to give you an update again a bit later on. 0614104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086 000 2032. Dumin Khapel is standing by with a sports update, and she's not in studio today.
This is SAFM Sports with Dumin Khapele.
Well, thank you very much, Aldrin. Yes, I'm not in studio today. I'm down in Sandton, and it's because of the launch of the City to City Marathon, which is back, and it's back after an 8-year hiatus. Now, the marathon was launched today in Sandton, and we'll see 50-kilometer ultra marathon start from the Centurion Rugby Club, finishing at the Wanderers Sports Club in Johannesburg. There'll also be a 5 and 10-kilometer to support the race at 100 Rand and 150 Rand registration fee, respectively, while the 50-kilometer is 300 Rands. And Athletics South Africa President James Moloi says that this is some sort of great preparation for the athletes who have qualified for the Olympics, and he wants it to be an annual race.
It's an iconic race. It's an international race. Everybody's going to coming from all over the world. But we want to sustain this race to be a long-term race, not just a once-off event, because it's been there before. So starting from now, we must just move, and then I'll go out of my way to try to get the corporate companies to be there, because the event is going to be televised live.
Aldrin, I think we should try our luck with the 5 or 10 kilometer. I think I'm going to go for the 5 kilometer, but we'll talk about it just a bit later. Why are you not sure?
Yeah, I don't know. I need some convincing. I tried to sign up for a race in Edenvale.
Yeah.
I chose the 5-kilometer race.
And?
In the morning, I couldn't wake up.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why.
And trust me, they always start very early. I know that the 50 kilometer is going to start at 6 a.m. However, 5 and 10 is at 7. That's not too early because you always wake up at 3 in the morning anyway.
But not to run.
Okay, let's move right on to rugby news. Philip Snyman has been promoted to head coach of the Blitzboks with immediate effect, and Sandile Ngobo returns to the junior structures. Ngobo was promoted from Sevens Academy coach to take over from Neil Powell in September 2022, with Snyman, a former Blitzbok captain, appointed as assistant coach. So now Snyman takes over until the end of July. The Blitzboks, who had finished in the top 2 in 12 of the previous previous 16 World 7 seasons are currently 7th on the standings after finishing 9th and 11th in the last two events in Vancouver and Los Angeles respectively. And if the team fails to finish in the top 8 of the standings, it will be required to play in a promotion and relegation series. Meanwhile, Japan Rugby Union head coach Eddie Jones says that he was pleased to see some young players playing for England in the Six Nations Championship, and he was specifically talking about Marcus Smith, saying that his turn will come. Now, the 64-year-old quit as Australian coach after his native country's woeful World Cup campaign in France, and he was hired as Japan's coach in a deal taking him through to the 2027 Rugby World Cup. In cricket, the Delhi Capitals booked their place in the final of the Tata Women's Premier League. This is after they won 2 of their last 3 pool games during the final week of pool stage action to finish top of the log. The Mumbai Indians finished 2nd and the Royal Challengers Bangalore 3rd to seal their spots in the final eliminator, which will be battled out tomorrow night. And the winner of that match will go on to face the Capitals in the final at the same ground on Sunday night to see who will be crowned the champions. Ending things off for tennis, Coco Gauff breezed past Elise Mertens in straight sets at Indian Wells, while Aryna Sabalenka was surprisingly knocked out. Gauff dropped just 2 games as she raced to a 6-love, 6-2 win over Mertens as she made the last 8 for a second consecutive year. And she was on course to meet Sabalenka in the semi-finals in a repeat of the Australian Open final, but the world number 2 was stunned by Emma Navarro. Sabalenka was far from her best as she lost 6-3, 3-6 and 6-2 in that one. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour. For SAFM Sport, I'm Dumin Kapel.
#SAFMBTH.
We're taking your voice notes on 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032. Remember that we're also streaming live on Facebook as well as YouTube and X, so you can leave some of your comments there. We'll try to log on now and take some of your comments of those 2 platforms as well. And then coming up on the show in this hour, we'll speak to AfriForum. They are taking Rand Water to court. They say the attempt to address the ongoing water cuts that they've experienced in several municipalities. The organization is arguing that Rand Water's decision to reduce water supply has far-reaching implications for affected communities. So I'll be speaking to them in the next short while. 0614-104107, and can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Good day, Aldrin. Aldrin, you're speaking to Manzini. You know what, Aldrin? Whether we buy it on credit, whether we buy it cash, whether we don't buy it, the fact remains they confess to be involved in that case, in that matter of Senzo Meyiwa. Now, they must face their consequences now. That's it. It's not a matter of they were bribed or they were not bribed. Now they must tell who's the mastermind. That's all. Now we, as a nation, we want to hear who killed our national goalkeeper, our national asset. Who killed them? Who killed that guy? That's all. Thank you.
Gautrain is for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 35 Rand from Hatfield to Centurion. Is for Ikoko, who steady chill on neutral on a downhill just to save fuel. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 35 Rand from Hatfield to Centurion Station. Gautrain, for people on the move.
The Portfolio Committee on Public Works, Roads, Community Safety and Transport Management will be conducting public hearings on Railway Safety Bill on the 15th of March 2024 at Mabulia Community Hall, Naka Mudrimulema District, Okti Community Hall, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Wipilo Community Hall, Revilo, Dr. Ruth Sohomosi Mumpati District, and Jericho Multipurpose Hall, Jericho in Buchanala District. All hearings starts at 10 in the morning.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 cars. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
After a convincing 7-3 victory against Bristol City, Brighton ladies now have a massive assignment to burgle maximum points from Man City ladies. The Seagulls can't wait to escape from their unpleasant bottom half position, but second-place Citizens want to dethrone Chelsea ladies from the summit. This is the FA Women's Super League. Brighton and Hove Albion ladies versus Manchester City ladies on Sunday 17 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032. So we move off to this story next. AfriForum has initiated legal proceedings against Rand Water. This as they attempt to address the ongoing water cuts experienced by several municipalities across the country. The organization is arguing that Rand Water's decision to reduce supply has far-reaching implications for the affected communities, especially for the most vulnerable. We speak to Petrus Kutsia, who is AfriForum's advisor for local government affairs. Good afternoon, Petrus, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Hello, Aldrin. Thank you for the opportunity.
Why are you taking this particular action, considering that Rand Water is saying that these municipalities actually owe it?
Yes, so we do understand the situation that Rand Water find themselves in, and we do have some sympathy for them. But the bottom line is that there are many citizens within these communities now that don't have clean water or any access to clean water, because we see that where they reduce the pressure.
Hi, Petrus.
So, hello?
Sorry, we lost you there for a second.
Okay, I'll just repeat that. Sorry. So, as I was saying, yes, although we have sympathy for Rand Water, for the situation that they are in, we have seen now that many citizens in these communities, they don't have any access to water, because where Rand Water is now reducing this pressure, the high-lying areas especially don't have any water. So although they have this debt, or although the municipalities have debt with Rand Water, we cannot allow these citizens now to not have any access to clean water.
So what's the proposal then for the alternative? Because again, as we say, that the Rand Water is saying that it's owed by these municipalities. Let me just quickly go through the list here. It says that water supply to Mwata local municipality in the Free State has been reduced because of an outstanding bill of 63 million rand. Lisedi local municipality in Gauteng owes over 52 million. Rand West local municipality in Gauteng owes over 546 million, while Mfuleni municipality in Gauteng owes Rand Water 945 million. That's a lot of money.
Yes, it is a lot of money. I think it amounts in total to about 3 billion rand, which is a lot of money, and we understand that this threatens the sustainability of Rand Water. But there are other remedies that they first have to look at, such as engaging with the MEC of Kokta for the specific province, and all they have to approach National Treasury as well as the National Department of Kokta to intervene in the situation.
But Rand Water would have approached National Treasury as well to recover this money.
Sorry, repeat that?
I'm saying that Rand Water would have approached Treasury as well to try and recover this money.
They might have, but we haven't seen any meetings between them and the municipality. And what we would also like to see is for them to engage with the communities. They didn't send a notice before reducing the water supply whatsoever. The first notice from Rand Water was sent only after the intervention took place.
Okay. Petrus, let's just quickly see if we can get you on a different line. Unfortunately, the network there isn't clear. 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032. And look at those figures. The Mirafung municipality, also in Gauteng, owes the water supply 801 million rand. So, as Petrus had said, it's close to around 3 billion rand. And Rand Water did say that they did seek the intervention of National Treasury to recover the outstanding funds. But what do you think should happen? Because also, water is life. Water is life. So, what is the answer to this? What is the answer to municipalities not paying Rand Water for the water that it supplies, and now Rand Water taking this decision to say we're going to cut or reduce the supply to these municipalities? So, Petrus, sorry, we lost you there for a second. You were speaking about the intervention from Treasury.
Yes, we haven't seen any intervention as of yet. So, as I was saying, we first require National Treasury to hold meetings with Rand Water and the municipality, as well as National Department of COPTA. And besides that, we would have liked to see them to, hold some public participation process where they engage with the communities before they cut the water, because the first notice that we have information about is a notice sent by Rand Water only after this interruptions took place.
Yeah, well, Rand Water did say that they sought the intervention of National Treasury to recover the outstanding funds, but I don't know whether or not the invoking Section 31 of the Intergovernmental Relation Framework, which speaks to the issues that you are raising, speaking to COCTA, for instance, speaking and getting the Department of Water and Sanitation involved, if that was invoked before the decision was taken to reduce the water supply.
Yeah, that is also a question at the moment. They have started the process, as far as we are all aware. They are considering and starting the process for the intergovernmental dispute. But we would have liked to see them first go through the whole process and then have a public participation process to engage with the community before these interruptions take place.
Which areas do you know of have been heavily affected so far?
Especially the Mirafong region, Falkville, Coltonville, and then also the Govan-Beki municipality, especially the town of Bethel, and also in the Ngwate municipality, the town of Heilbron. We know especially the high-lying areas where the pressure is reduced. Some of the high-lying areas don't have any water whatsoever.
Yeah. As AfriForum, post this court challenge, going forward, user pay principle, of course, as government has always tell us, applies. But what do you think municipalities should be doing to ensure that money is actually paid to Rand Water? Because after all, it also needs the money to run its operations.
Yes, definitely. But the thing is, a service like water is a revenue-generating service.
Yeah.
So consumers pay a specific amount based on the water that they use. So that water must be paid directly to Rand Water. It shouldn't be used for salaries and things like that. It should be paid directly to Rand Water. So, yeah, there's definitely some governance issues. And also they should, I think in future, there should be a process where places like Rand Water and municipalities and then communities and community organizations sit around one table and discuss, the various challenges and how they can be met.
And the sad part is that you could actually find that with some of these cases and the debt that is outstanding to Rand Water, the municipalities actually lost the water to leaks.
Yes, that's the other issue. So there are some leaks, and at the end of the day, their bills are much higher than the actual consumption by the end users. So yeah, there are various challenges, and maintenance and repairs done by municipalities are also not, on the standards.
Okay, so with this court challenge, what is it then that you want the courts to rule? What recourse are you seeking?
So we are looking to get an interdict that prevents Rand Water from the specific action that they are doing at the moment, because we are of the view that they haven't exhausted all the other remedies. So all the other remedies available to them before cutting this water. So we are asking the court, to halt this process, and we are also looking to set aside the decision made by Rand Water.
Petrus, thank you so much for your time. Petrus Kutsia is AfriForum's advisor for local government affairs. And again, mind you, the issue around water leaks. So you'd find that some of the money that is owed to Rand Water is actually water that has been lost through the leaks. And today, the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Senzo Mkhunu, signed an MOU with his Zimbabwean counterpart for treated water to be transferred from Zimbabwe's Beitbridge water treatment works to the Musina town in Limpopo. So do you live in an area that has been affected also by the recent water cuts? Do get in touch with us. Drop us a voice note on 0614-104-107. And also what you make of the decision that has been taken by Rand Water to reduce the supply to these municipalities. So the supply hasn't been cut, but the supply has been reduced.
Did you know that load shedding only happens when electricity demand exceeds supply? Eskom's team of specialists manages the grid 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to protect the electricity network. You can help reduce load shedding stages by continuing to use less electricity, particularly between 5 and 9 in the morning and evening when demand is high. Government and Eskom working hard to reduce and ultimately end load shedding.
Get South Africa's best adventure SUV. The new Ford Everest Sport 2-litre auto bi-turbo 4x2, now from only $14,499 per month with no deposit. With 20-inch alloy wheels and black exterior accents. Get the new Ford Everest Sport at your nearest Ford dealer today. T&Cs apply.
After a convincing 7-3 victory against Bristol City, Brighton ladies now have a massive assignment to burgle maximum points from Man City ladies. The Seagulls can't wait to escape from their unpleasant bottom half position. But second-place citizens want to dethrone Chelsea ladies from the summit. This is the FA Women's Super League. Brighton and Hove Albion ladies versus Manchester City ladies on Sunday 17 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The only talk radio afternoon drive show that makes sense. Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear, right here on SAFM.
Good afternoon, Aldrin and your team. Flores here from the Western Cape. Aldrin, do you know if the emails, people who use Microsoft 365, is that up and running yet? I know that Microsoft issued a statement of emails being down, not only for us in South Africa, but also in the UK. But would you know if there's any progress? Thank you so much. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
Not too sure if there's been any progress, but yeah, there is the statement that has been that has been issued by Microsoft. Actually, various organizations have also issued statements to their staff as well as their clients. Like, for instance, the University of Witwatersrand asked earlier on today, about an hour ago, "Dear Witties, kindly note that there is a major incident affecting MS Teams, Outlook, and other services running on Microsoft platforms. This is not an internal WITS university incident. All Microsoft users are impacted. We will keep you updated on the estimation time for this resolution." So certainly it seems as though that it is outgoing. So as soon as we get an update, we will share that with you with regards to this outage. 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032.
Aldrin, you know, money affects many of our mortal life aspects, if not all. Therefore, financial literacy, I think it is a prudent idea to make it a forceful subject for our little ones. Maybe to add on that, not only financial literacy, because if you can just have financial literacy without money, you are like having a driver's license without a car. So they must also be taught how to control and own our minerals.
Yeah. So
thank you. Muluko mo Polokwane.
So that proposal from them says replace life orientation and introduce compulsory financial and entrepreneurial literacy training and portable skills training modules in the school curriculum. So this is the proposal that's coming from the IFP in the manifesto. They'll be joining us just after 5 o'clock for the interview as we focus on their economic manifesto proposals.
Afternoon, Aldrin and SA listeners. Aldrin, you remember during I think it's last week or early this week, there's a caller who said he was on that programs of water leaks.
Yes, the one on leaks.
They said they couldn't employ them by municipalities because maybe there was a change in power of Zuma. These politicians of ANC, they are playing with the people's life. Now Rainwater want to close their water because of the municipalities losing more water in the leaks than supplying to people. And you'll find most of the people are paying that they're gonna suffer this cut of the water because municipality can pay because they are losing water because they don't want to hire people that were trained by that project we're talking about of billions. This government of ANC, sorry to say, this is nonsense. If a person voted for ANC, I won't understand what you'll be thinking.
Yeah, this issue about the leaks for me is if you're going to be losing, like remember the other day when I told you about the DG for Water and Sanitation saying that in eThekwini they lose close to 50% of their clean, drinkable water through leaks. So, which means that when you own rainwater or when you own any of the water boards, essentially what happens is that you're also owing them for money for water that you have lost through leaks. Michael is joining us from Gqeberha. Good afternoon.
No, I was just okay. Let me put it another way, right? Tobin Gordon, he used to tell us to connect the dots, right? He used to tell us let's connect the dots, right? And if we are to connect the dots, has he not attempted to capture the state, or maybe even captured the state with the SAA deal? Is that not state capture? Because SAA is a state-owned enterprise. It is not a private business. He doesn't own it. It's not for him. And he's gone into a deal where he was even able to tell parliamentarians that I'm not going to come and talk about this deal in public. We are not going to do it as the normal way. We need to do it in camera. He even said to them that I'm going to share some documents, but before I do so, you need to sign non-disclosure agreements. This is an executive telling Parliament this, right? But what I find interesting also is that your morality brigade, your Freedom Under Law, Helen Sussman, Kaysak, all these that shout a lot about.
You call them the Morality Brigade?
Yes, the
Okay.
Morality Brigade, yes. That like to shout about accountability. Where are they? How come they're not saying anything about this? Because this is quite a serious issue. We can't just say the deal is off. No, that's not enough.
Yeah, actually, the South African Communist Party has released a statement, and in that statement, the South African Communist Party is saying that the SACP calls on the cabinet to go further. We need a thorough investigation into exactly what happened and how it happened. Cabinet must take steps to protect SAA's intellectual property, which has now been exposed to private commercial interest, and ensure adequate recapitalization of SAA and its full ownership by the state on behalf of the people as a whole. Now, yesterday, remember when this issue came out and when the minister made the announcement, I did say that I believe that there should be an investigation into what actually happened, what was at the core of the deal. It's not enough to just say that the deal is no longer going ahead. The aviation analyst that we spoke to said it is immaterial, but yes, perhaps maybe immaterial in SAA going back to this. Well, it is already back in the skies, but maybe immaterial in that aspect, trying to find another partner, an equity partner for SAA. But the SACP raises another important thing, I think, again. And this is around the intellectual property of SAA. Because remember that the Takatso Consortium, as part of acquiring or trying to acquire a 51% stake in SAA, would have been exposed and would have had the privilege to see some confidential documents which members of parliament were not even allowed to see, that they would have perused through to see whether this is a deal that they want to go through with or not. So they have access to that information. They have access to that intellectual property. What impact is that going to have on SAA's ability to be competitive? What impact is that going to have on SAA's ability to be competitive? We don't know as yet. But I do say that there should actually be an investigation and get to the bottom of what was at the core of the deal, what was discussed. And again, the former DG of the Public Enterprises Services emphasized that he still believes that the deal was corrupt. 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Studio line is 086-000-2032. It's 4 o'clock.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, bodies of suspected illegal miners found on Gauteng's West Rand and dozens of migrants drown off Libya. Good afternoon. The bodies of 4 suspected illegal miners have been found in 2 separate areas on Gauteng's West Rand. 3 bodies with gunshot wounds were discovered this morning in Muhlakeng, an area known as an illegal mining hotspot. A charred body was also found in Florida, west of Johannesburg. There were reports this morning that a total of 8 bodies had been discovered in Florida. However, police could only confirm 1 body. The motive for the killings are being investigated. Gauteng Police spokesperson Brenda Muridili.
The team conducting the search include members from SAPS and Help 24 security drones, SAPS Air Wing, NIU, TRT, K9, as well as Florida Crime Prevention and other stakeholders. Drones and police helicopter are used as the ground forces' eyes in the sky to search the area. The cause of death will be determined following a post-mortem examination. The motive for the killing will be determined through investigations.
The initiator of the hearing into the 9 EFF MPs, Penelope Magona Danu, has recommended they should be found guilty for their conduct during President Cyril Ramaphosa's budget vote speech and debate on the 9th and 10th of June 2022. They were mainly charged for contempt of Parliament by the Powers and Privileges Committee. The 10th MP, Nonhlanhla Mkonto, who was also charged, was found not guilty as it was discovered that she was never in the House. Data from Statistics South Africa shows production in the mining sector declined considerably in January. Stats SA says the sector recorded a decrease of 3.3% year-on-year in January compared to 0.2% year-on-year increase in December. The largest negative contributors were gold and diamonds. Notando Magudulela reports.
According to the data, mineral sales at current prices increased year-on-year in January. Iron ore and gold were the largest positive contributors in this period. Seasonally adjusted mining production decreased by 0.8% in January compared with December. PGMs and coal were significant negative contributors in January. The sector has been battling low commodity prices, load shedding, and logistics challenges that have impacted business activity negatively.
In election news, The IFP says their win in 3 by-elections in Newcastle in northern KwaZulu-Natal will bring increased instability to the council. The wards were left vacant following the resignation of 3 ANC councillors. The Newcastle Council is led by an IFP-led coalition that includes the DA, Team Sugar SA and other smaller parties. Mayor of the Newcastle local municipality, the IFP's, Xolani Dube, says working with other parties will keep them on their toes.
There will be more office stability in this municipality. However, we still need the relations that we are having with all the parties. Even if the numbers were going to say we don't need anyone to work with, we'll still maintain the relations that we are having with the other parties. You know, running the municipality alone will give you an opportunity to make many mistakes because you will take decisions just anyhow. Leading with the other parties is giving us an opportunity as the IFP to be in a position to see if there is anything alarming. They will be the first one to tell us with no.
And finally, at least 60 migrants are reported to have drowned while trying to reach Europe from Libya after the overloaded dinghy broke down and overturned. Survivors say the engine cut out as the boat crossed the Mediterranean. The BBC's Stefano Fasanu has the details.
25 survivors were rescued by the Ocean Viking, a vessel operated by the humanitarian group SOS Mediterranee. The survivors told the vessel crew they had set off from Libya 7 days before being rescued. The engine of the dinghy broke down after 3 days, leaving the boat adrift without food or water. 2 of the 25 survivors were evacuated by the Italian Coast Guard overnight and taken to hospital in Sicily. The 2 men fainted on the ship, and the medical staff on board were unable to resuscitate them.
Recapping the top story, the bodies of 4 suspected illegal miners have been found in 2 separate areas on Gauteng's West Rand. 3 bodies with gunshot wounds were discovered this morning in Muhlakeng, an area known as an illegal mining hotspot, and a charred body was also found in Florida, west of Johannesburg. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Skukunya United to battle it out with Amazulu as they look to qualify for the quarterfinals of the Nedbank Cup, and China to host Davis Cup finals group stage matches for the first time. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, there are 2 breakdowns on Joburg's N3 South, and both having a really big impact. One before you get to Galilee's and another after Galilee's down by Van Buren. So the N3 jammed from Alexandra all the way down through almost to Germiston. Behind that N3, the N12 and R24 routes in from the east are heavy as well. Crash on the Mike 1 North at Grayston Drive. Delays going up from Melrose. Grayston Drive coming out of Santon is heavy down towards the Mike 1 Highway. And there's a lot of pressure around Illovo and Melrose today. Parts of Caller Drive, Oxford Road, Glenhove Road, really heavily jammed up. Just outside Kloof on your way to Hillcrest along the M13 in KZN. That's very busy, queuing traffic towards the old main road exit. And Cape Town's M5 North, a crash at Barclay Road in the Maitland area, causing a massive jam coming through from the Rondebosch area. Behind that, there's some very heavy traffic through Hospital Bend. The N2 outbound is jammed to get into that M5 North, and that means Nelson Mandela, Philip Castano leaving town are busy, and there's a big backlog coming in from Newlands on the M3 inbound towards Hospital Bend and links to the N2 outbounds. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Introducing a collection of Audi Black and Urban Special Edition models crafted for the bold and curated for the progressive. From the sporty Audi S3 and elegant A4 to the distinctive Q2 and Q3, each vehicle has been created to be an extension of your identity. Style, design, comfort and technology is yours to own with a guaranteed future value and a competitive monthly installment through Audi Financial Services. Visit audi.co.za to discover more.
Friend, yes? I nearly fainted when I read somewhere that the GEPF's minimum funding level is at 72%.
Really?
Only to realize that it was in 1996 when the GEPF was founded.
Okay.
I just saw my pension going.
You like drama, hey friend? Sure.
We've come a long way. GEPF's minimum funding level is at 110.1%. This means that the GEPF has R1.10 for every R1 it owes its retiring members. GEPF members are more than covered when they retire with the GEPF. Tomorrow shouldn't be a worry when today is done right. GEPF, your investment, your future.
Luton Town and Nottingham Forest are caught up in the same predicament. They both want out of the current pitfall. The Hatters want to dish out instructions at Kenilworth Road.
Great boy Morris! A captain's goal from the man with the armband.
But the Tricky Trees have different notions to grab vital points on an away ground.
Has to be a goal from Hudson. Yes! There we go!
This is the Premier League. Luton Town FC versus Nottingham Forest FC on Saturday, 16 March at 4 p.m. live on S3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear on SAFM. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
It is 9 minutes after 4 o'clock. Coming up in the show in this hour, we continue conversation that we started yesterday on the TPM Credit Bureau report that found that 3.3% of school staff have been convicted of a crime or awaiting trial. And then we'll be speaking to Elijah Mhlanga, who's the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education. Today is World Kidney Day. We're in conversation with Lungelo Hadebe, who is a kidney champion and change management specialist, who will be joining us about World Kidney Day, and also looking at trying to understand there has been a consistent rise in people being diagnosed in a desperate need to replacement therapies such as kidney transplant and mostly dialysis. So we're going to be speaking to Lungelo about that. And then at 20 to 4, we speak to Ele Tudela from Rhodes University and Anita Mkaleli, who is a student from the Nelson Mandela University. And this is on the University Debate Challenge. So this coming Friday, Oliver Dixon will see the Rhodes University taking on the Nelson Mandela University, and the subject is in instances where a locally created and owned internet application equivalent like research engines, messaging, and social media platforms exist, should the state block the foreign-owned equivalent? Should the state block the foreign-owned equivalent? That conversation is coming up a bit later on.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
10 past 4.
10 past 4. Bob!
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Afternoon, Aldrin is Hamilton here. With this recent saga of shortage of water, I'm convinced and I've concluded that Makasa village and the surrounding villages that are there under Chaban municipality, these villages are not in South Africa, yet they are under Chaban municipality. Why do I say this? Makasa village and the surrounding villages have been without water for more than 20 years, and nobody cares. Not a single person, not the municipality, not the district, not the province, not the national, there's no single one who cares about the villages that they don't have water. So this convinced me that they are not in South Africa. That's Hamilton. Have a good afternoon, already.
Good afternoon, SAFM. And to listeners, it's Sylvan Gamda from Durban. Aldrin, with regard to the water leaks, I'd just like to suggest to our municipality, our water department, simple, they need to look at the infrastructure plans they have. All asbestos water pipes should be replaced with the new plastic pipes. Basically, these asbestos pipes cannot handle the pressure that's exerted from the reservoir. So when they're testing, they always increase the pressure, and this pressure is causing the asbestos pipe to burst, and that's just causing major leaks. So simple, go onto the network infrastructure, look at the plans, design a project, get the funds, replace all asbestos pipes. This will eliminate all water leaks. Thank you.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Let's go to Tepo, who's joining us from East London. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. How are you?
Good. How's it?
I'm fine, man. Yeah, I just want to speak about an experience we had yesterday at Timbaza police station. Yeah, I'm calling you from East London. You know, yesterday we went there because we had an issue with my partner. There's an old guy, his neighbor, they had a quarrel. The guy went to insult her, right? So in the morning, we took her to the police station to open a case against the guy. But when we got there, we were not helped. The police said there are no vans, so we must not open a case. We must rather go in and get a protection order. But what I noticed there, besides our own case, people were being sent away there. There are 3 women who were sent away. One went because she was saying in the area where she's from Timbaza as well. There are people fighting and she's scared of going home. So she's going to a police station to seek protection or for police to go there and assist. The police told her, we don't have vans. We can't go and we don't know what to do. So the lady asked, what must I do? Said, no, we can't help you, ma. There's nothing we can do. Another lady was holding a protection order in her hand. She was saying, tomorrow I'm due to go to court with a person, but the person was never served his court of the protection order. So tomorrow I'm supposed to be going to court to stage with the guy, but he doesn't even know, and he's continuing to harass me. And the police said, well, we can't help you. We don't have a van. Just go to court in the morning. And then eventually they helped us, but the only way they could do for us, they insisted that we must not open a case because the guy will not be arrested. He'll just come and take his fingerprints, and then he'll be sent to court. So the best thing to do is to go to court and seek a protection order. We agreed to that.
To seek a protection order again?
Yes. No. Ours was the first time, right? The other cases is cases we found of people there.
Yeah, but so there are people there in front of you who have a restriction orders, and the police can't enforce that. But now they're telling you to also do the same thing.
Yes. They said you must go and do the same thing. So we did that, and the person is still not served now. I've been calling them. I know a police captain in Islam, so I called the police captain. She gave me a number of the station commander there to try and inquire. I phoned the guy. He says that I make sure yesterday by close of business it's served. Till today it's not served, and it's worrying because I went there for one day. The only people who are being served there are people who go for the certification of documents. Everyone is being sent away. We don't have a van. They were using a polo sedan to go to.
So it's just in tatters, yeah? Have you spoken to the councillor? What are they saying?
No, I didn't speak to any councillor.
Why not?
Because I'm not from that area. I went there because it's the villages, the old ladies from that side. So
yeah,
I went
but why
to
don't you go to a councillor, speak to the councillor, see what they're saying about the situation? Because after all, they're supposed to be representing the interest of the people that they serve.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah,
okay, but you know what? Last week Wednesday, there was a cash van that was blown there. It's literally 5 minutes walk away from the place. When the police were called, they didn't go. They said they're in the vans. It's a 5 minutes walk from the area. They didn't go.
Timbaza police station, you say?
Yeah, it's Timbaza.
Okay.
I tried to alert Liranzo on Twitter, but she didn't respond. Maybe I didn't get enough responses on my tweet, but it's a problem.
Thank you, Tepo there from East London. Your experience, maybe if you are in an area that uses the Timbaza police station, what has that experience been like? But we have heard complaints of police stations that don't have enough vehicles. I think the other one was in Diepsloot just a couple of months ago as well. 0614-104107, and you can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
It's 17 minutes after 4 o'clock. We're in conversation next with Lungelo Hatebe, who is a kidney champion and also change management specialist, as we observe World Kidney Day, which focuses on the importance of kidney health and various diseases that can affect its normal function. We tell you more about Lungelo Hatebe's journey of sickness as part of spreading awareness about the hidden qualitative experience of those living with kidney disease. We understand that South Africa, there has been consistent rise in people being diagnosed in a desperate need for renal replacement therapies, such as kidney transplant as well as dialysis. We speak to Lungelo, who's joining us on the line. Lungelo, good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well, thank you so much. So tell me, for you, what does this day represent?
This day, Aldrin, represents it challenges us to create awareness of kidney disease, number one. Number two, it actually provides us with an opportunity to zoom in into the lives of various people who are affected by the double burden of disease and poverty. And some others actually, in fact, as a triple burden of disability, poverty, and disease. And as we know, that chronic kidney disease is classified as a form of disability in South Africa.
Tell us about your journey. When were you diagnosed, and when did you realize that you actually have a problem with your kidneys?
So, Aldrin, mine was a pretty funny one. I was gaining weight, not realizing until my cough was really concerning at the campsite with my friends out in Albert Falls, outside Pietermaritzburg, and I realized that I've been having this flu for 3 weeks, and it's not coming right. And until I got to a doctor, and the doctor said to me, "No, this is beyond me. Have you noticed that you have not gained weight, but you're accumulating fluid in your body?" So I had fluid in all parts of my body, which is very risky, and then I had to be referred to a specialist who diagnosed that I'm already on end-stage kidney disease. That's actually the complexity with chronic kidney disease, because most people find out when it's already at an advanced stage where it cannot be reversed, and you're in desperate need of dialysis. And we've noted in the media various celebrities who did not even reach the fortunate position of being able to get a renal replacement therapy, which is either dialysis or transplant, but had to succumb to that disease even before they could get the diagnosis.
And for you, once you were then told that actually there is you have a kidney disease, and it's a bit too late to reverse it, mentally, what was the impact?
Number one, I was numb. I just couldn't understand. It was just massive pain to consume. Hence, I've actually tried to go back and recollect every feeling that I felt there to create a conceptual framework to help organizations deal better with change. It was confusing. It was threatening. It was all dark. I couldn't see any possibility, any way out, because I had not known anybody speaking about kidney disease or seen anybody going for dialysis for that matter. So it was really difficult for me. No particular emotion can really explain it, and it also has very indirect consequences and impact to family and friends, as this has affected many people around my life.
But what does it mean then for you and your social setting, the way that Lungelo used to live his life, his social lifestyle as well, before the diagnosis, and now when you go and visit friends, perhaps maybe you get invited to a dinner and you have to have specific dietary requirements around what it is that you eat and so forth. Do you find that sometimes people are less reluctant to invite you over to social settings where they know that there will be food that is served. However, though, maybe some of the food will not meet your dietary requirements?
Aldrin, one thing I've learned in my journey is to actually take up the spaces and don't necessarily allow or wait for people to create spaces for you, but take up spaces and people will follow suit. People will be encouraged by you. People will be interested in how to accommodate you better if you've already taken the space. That is why, as disability activists, we say nothing for us without us, because we have to take up space. So I live a full life, a full active life, of course with dietary restrictions, and also I have to go to dialysis 3 times a week and so on.
Is it expensive?
Yes. Dialysis is expensive. Most South Africans who are in desperate need of dialysis unfortunately die because the state has a very cruel policy with the rationing, which actually limits and deprives poor people of dialysis. I stand here today to tell it all because I've went through that process. I was denied dialysis by the state.
Why? How?
They've got a rule that if you are not renal, if they are not going to be transplantable for whatever reason, maybe you suffered a stroke or other problems that are not big, that are not major actually, and age and so on. The reasons behind the rules are to ensure that they can only assist less people in the program. So a majority of people are excluded. I was also excluded because I had suffered a Bell's palsy, which was created by them delaying me to get on dialysis when I actually desperately needed dialysis. And the neurologist had to argue with them that you need to put this person on proper dialysis for him to live, and then they denied me dialysis, and then I was left out there, thanks to my family, my friends, people who contributed money. It's just little money, Adrian. My whole journey for the whole year when I was in working period in medical aid costed in excess of 300,000. This is excluding transportation and all other and chronic medication. This is only dialysis, the surgeries you do to insert ports and so on. So I was very blessed by organizations like the Islamic Medical Association, who are trying so hard, but they can only do so much. Majority of South Africans are in trouble.
I can imagine.
We plead all the time with government to please expand access.
And you can imagine with the inequality as well that we have in this country and the cost of healthcare in this country. Lungelo Hatebe, continue being a champion. He's a kidney champion and a change management specialist. Today is World Kidney Day. 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Mac is joining us from Durban. You say that you've also been affected by the disease. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Mac. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I have been diagnosed 2 years ago.
Okay.
End-stage renal failure. I got sick in January 2022. I was taken up in a hospital, and I can agree what Lungelo says what happened. They found out and says that because I got another disease, for instance, I had a mini stroke, could not put me on dialysis. That is a government hospital. I was in Cham's medical aid scheme. They told me I had to wait for 1 year before I could do dialysis. It's an expensive exercise, number one, because twice a week, 4 hours, I pay 2,200 Rand for the dialysis that I had to do.
Yeah. So Max, sorry. So when they told you that they can't put you on dialysis because of the stroke, was there medical reason behind it? Hello, Mac? Mac, are you there? Hello, Mac, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure. Yes, Mac, I was asking that when they told you that they won't be putting you on dialysis because of the stroke that you had suffered, was there medical reason behind it? Oof. Okay. No, we keep on losing Mac there. If there's anyone perhaps who have an answer to that question, if you go to because Mac is specifically speaking about a public hospital experience, and which Lungela was speaking about earlier on as well. So is there medical reason behind not putting somebody who had suffered a stroke on dialysis? Is there a medical reason behind it? Siva is joining us from Pietermaritzburg, also joining us on the line and currently on dialysis. Siva, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, no, my journey, I started 4 years ago. I was diagnosed with kidney failure. I'm on end-stage kidney failure. And fortunately, I'm on medical aid. And that's saved my life because our provincial hospitals don't do it because I'm past the 60 age group. So they don't do dialysis for patients that are under 50. I think when it's 50 and over, they just send you home and you can go and die at home. I had that experience with my brother-in-law that had kidney problem, and he was just about 62 years old. And the provincial hospital couldn't do anything for him. So they sent him home, and he died at home. So I'm one of those fortunate guys because I'm on medical aid.
Were you already over 50?
Yes, I'm 65
You're
now.
65?
It was 4.5 years ago now.
So if it is 4.5 years ago, you would have been what, 60, yeah?
Yeah.
So you're 60 and you have medical aid and you were put on a dialysis?
Yes. Now, if I had no medical aid, I was dead. Because our government hospitals don't do it. They say it's too expensive. And they return you home. They send you home. They take your file and keep it one side. And then they send you home. And you got to go home and die.
Sure. Siva, thank you so much for the call. Siva there from Pietermaritzburg. Maybe a conversation that we need to follow up on. This is around dialysis. A former colleague also sent a text now saying that, hey, Aldrin, the interview cuts deep. I'm attending the funeral of a Grootman in my village who has apparently succumbed to kidney failure. He was on dialysis last year, January, and we all thought that he would beat it. 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032. It's 4:30. Time for the news headlines.
Good afternoon, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, a number of families in 6 villages in Nkomazi, east of Mbombela in Mpumalanga, have been left without shelter following a heavy storm. The heavy wind and rain blew off the roofs of more than 58 houses. The bodies of 4 suspected illegal miners have been found in 2 separate areas on Gauteng's West Rand. 3 bodies with gunshot wounds were discovered this morning in Muhlakeng, an area known as an illegal mining hotspot. A charred body was also found in Florida, west of Johannesburg. And the IFP says their win in 3 by-elections in Newcastle in northern KwaZulu-Natal will bring increased stability to the council. The wards were left vacant following the resignation of 3 ANC councillors. Greg House will have details on these and other stories at 5.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very busy around Joburg's Melrose, Yalova and Rosebank areas this afternoon. Traffic jam-packed on multiple routes. Oxford, Glenhove, Corler Drive and other routes in the area. It's a corporate road race event that's getting underway. So you've got participants arriving and workers trying to get out of the area. So it's all really badly backed up through there. Breakdown on the N3 south at Funbeer, and it's heavy today. The N3 from Lindbro Park, the N12 and R24 routes in from the Ekurhuleni side into Galilee's. Absolutely solid. Grayston Drive coming coming out of Santon, that's quite slow today as well, queuing up towards the Micro on the highway. Another day, another breakdown on the N1 North today. It's a stationary bus at New Road, so some delays getting up through the mid-Rand area, the pushback there from the Buccleuch interchange already. Durban side, the M13, we're tracking some delays between Kloof and Hillcrest. That's quite a big one. If you don't fancy it, N3, Cassian Road will come into play as an alternative route. And Cape Town, the crash on the M5 going north of Barclay Road's been cleared to the left shoulder. All lanes are open. The M5 north towards Kuberg interchange is busy. And there's a lot of traffic backlogging through Hospital Bend today. Nelson Mandela Boulevard, Philip Kusana leaving the city centre very bad. And the M3 inbound queues heavily from Newlands up towards Hospital Bend for N2 outbound connections.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
In your sports this hour, there's some Nedbank Cup action tonight. Sekhukhune United face AmaZulu as they'll be looking to qualify for the quarterfinals when they lock horns at the Peter Mokaba Stadium. Sekhukhune haven't lost any games in their last 5 matches. They registered 3 wins and 2 draws in the process. Meanwhile, the KwaZulu-Natal side has only won 1, drawn 2, and lost on 2 occasions in their last 5 games. However, the 2 sides met 5 times in history, and AmaZulu claimed 2 victories, while Sekhukhune won 1 as they shared the spoils 2 times. Meanwhile, Maritzburg United coach Simo Dladla has shared his views on why some KwaZulu-Natal players struggle to maintain success in the PSL. Now, the likes of Njabulo Ngcobo and Austin Dube at Kaizer Chiefs struggled with game time, which led to Dube moving back to Richards Bay, and Luvuyo Pewa at Mamelodi Sundowns has been spending a lot of time on loan. Now, according to Dladla, he believes that a lack of belief and supporting structure may cause decline, something he gave them a lot.
Ngeke ngize ngazi ukuthi yini kodwa la ngihleli khona kubalekile ukuthi usebenze la uzothola khona isupport, usebenze la uzofika kwamukeleke kahle. Ngeke ngize ngisho ukuthi abamukelekile kahle, ngeke ngize ngisho ukuthi abanayo support, kodwa la ngikhona nje ngiyazi ukuthi kuyizinto lezo ezenza umuntu akwazi ukuyithemba. Njengobusho nje ngesikhathi ngisebenza nabo, ngikathi ngibabona babekade beqhamuka emazingeni aphansi kakhulu egabeni, futhi engekho even naseyinhlakeni zebhola nje lezi osafa, babeqhamuka ku-amateur leya ngempela, kodwa ngenxa yokuthi ngangikholelwa kubona bakwazi ukuthi baze babe kuleli izinga. Mhlawumbe bakhona abanye ke bafike bahlala bangena khaxa njengo Ricardo Gos, ukujabulisa ukumbona ke manje edlala regularly ku SuperSport ebizwa nakwibafana. Ngingasho nje ukuthi empilweni nakhona ebholeni uyamdinga umuntu ozokholelwa kuwena, uyamdinga umuntu ozokwakha, uyamdinga umuntu ozo-understand mwenza amaphutha akulungisa. Mhlambe they had that with me ngaleso sikhathi, and I think mhlambe they need it going forward.
So basically what Dladla is saying is that players need someone that will believe in them, and even though they make some mistakes, they'll be patient enough to see them through the whole process. Then in rugby, Philip Snyman has been promoted to head coach of the Blitzboks with immediate effect, and Satile Ngcobo returns to the junior structures. Ngcobo was promoted from Sevens Academy coach to take over from Neil Powell in September 2022, with Snyman, a former Blitzbok captain, appointed as assistant coach. Snyman takes over until the end of July, and the Blitzboks, who had finished in the top 2 in 12 of the previous 16 World 7 seasons, are currently 7th on the standings after finishing 9th and 11th in the last 2 events in Vancouver and Los Angeles respectively. If the team fails to finish in the top 8 of the standings, it will be required to play in a promotion and relegation series. In tennis, China will host Davis Cup finals group stage matches for the first time in September. The Hengpen International Tennis Center in Zhuhai will stage one of the 4 groups, with the other 3 to be held in Manchester, Valencia and Bologna from the 10th to the 15th of September. Now, Bologna and Valencia will host group stage matches for the 3rd straight year, while Manchester will hold them for the 2nd time in a row. The top 2 teams from each group will qualify for the final 8, which will be held from the 19th to the 24th of November, which also staged the round last year. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour. For SAFM Sport, I'm Duming Khapele.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Unlock a world of benefits. Welcome to SABC's TV License Rewards program. Ready to make your viewing experience more rewarding? Say hello to perks that go beyond just watching TV. Join us today at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and instantly receive your first reward. But wait, there's more. You can get up to 500 Rand back. Become part of something bigger, a movement where watching TV isn't just a hobby. It's a catalyst for positive change. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and open the door to a world of benefits. Plus, every time you tune in, you're making a difference. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference.
Business owners, don't waste your time searching for an employee that has it all. They do not exist. But I will tell you what does exist. The Kia K2700 workhorse. It's versatile, powerful, and reliable. It also arrives on time every day. Plus, you get 40,000 Rand cashback. It's the business partner you've been waiting for. Visit your nearest Kia dealership for a test drive. T's and C's apply.
Kia, movement that inspires.
The Portfolio Committee on Public Works, Roads, Community Safety and Transport Management will be conducting public hearings on Railway Safety Bill on the 15th of March 2024 at Mabulia Community Hall, Naka Mudiri Mulema District, Okti Community Hall, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Wipilo Community Hall, Revilo, Dr. Ruth Sohomosi Mumpati District, and Jericho Multipurpose Hall, Jericho in Buchanala District. All hearings start at 10 in the morning.
SABC Sport remembers the fallen hero, the legend of the beautiful game. Spiwe Dr. Mnandi Mkhonza, a great football analyst with a unique language that hits straight to the hearts of the fans.
Tactically, the teams are in a different level, and the quality also show.
This former defender just knew how to draw the undivided attention of the football-loving community. Rest in peace, Dr. Mnandi. You left a remarkable footprint. SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And it's time for a MoneyWeb market update with Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good afternoon and thank you so much for making time for us. Let's look at Exxaro's weak annual results. But then on the other hand, Standard Bank's annual profit saw a decent jump.
Afternoon to you, Adrian, and to the listeners. Yes, Exxaro, the thermal coal prices normalized to historic levels. Iron ore prices remained stable and continued logistic challenges with lowest Richards Bay coal terminal coal export levels since 1992, and also lower coal demand from Eskom, that resulting in revenue going down by 17%. Overall financial performance, which is EBITDA down 29%, profit as headline earnings per share down 22%, final dividend down 12%, but paid a special dividend of R5.72, and lower export prices and volumes impacted overall financial performance. And Standard Bank, their strong performance is underpinned by their robust and growing franchise and is reflective of the positive momentum in all their businesses. Headline earnings up 27%, with Africa regions contributing 42% to the group headline earnings, and active customers up 6% to 18.8 million. South Africa digital retail clients up 8%, and the group digital transactions up a whopping 30%. Total income, Adrian, is up 20%. That was driven by the net interest income growth of 25% and some non-interest revenue growth of 13%. Adrian, remember, Standard & Poor is forecasting that our banking sector will lose about 74 billion or 1.4% in unpaid loans this year, and the guys have seen their total dividend per share up nicely 18%.
And local and international market developments?
Markets after dismissing hotter than expected U.S. consumer inflation on Tuesday. Today we started the session with focus turning squarely to the upcoming U.S. producer inflation and also their retail sales. And the producer price data could be used to confirm or deny the hotter than expected CPI report that was released on Tuesday. And then the market needs the current story to continue. And the current story is basically one of a relatively soft landing, which is an acceptable level of economic activity that is non-inflationary. And we've seen that in a series of moves in Washington to respond to U.S. national security concerns about China. TikTok owner has 6 months to disinvest from the popular social media app or face a U.S. ban. And apparently, former U.S. Treasury Secretary is putting together an investor group to try to buy TikTok. And yes, the U.S. inflation PPI was released, and unfortunately it was disappointing as it was more than expected. We saw treasury yields going up. That itself is an indication that the U.S. will be in no rush to cut interest rates, and the market's knee-jerk reaction was not to shake off a hot inflation report, not again as it happened on Tuesday, as the report somehow confirms that hotter CPI released on Tuesday was not just a blip, and supply concerns remains after Ukraine attacked Russian refineries. There's also apparently a strong demand in the U.S. as inventories drop. We see Brent crude is up 1.5% at $85 a barrel, and gold traders are distracted by the hotter than expected U.S. wholesale prices. We see gold is down 0.6% at 2160. Platinum is down a whopping 1% at 927. The Dow, just like S&P, opened down 0.1%. DAX is flat. FTSE down 0.3%, but the CAC is up 0.5%, with the JSE down a whooping 1% after closing up 1% yesterday. And we are tracked mainly by our resources, which are down 2%, financials down 0.9%, industrial down 0.5%, and the rand weakened almost 0.8% against the US dollar. Is now at 18.73, and then 23.90 to the pound and 20.42 to the euro.
Thank you so much. That's Markwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Markwe Fund Managers.
#SAFMBTH
0614104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086 000 2032.
Aldrin, I'd like to comment on the dialysis issue. I work at a regional hospital a rural regional hospital that refers to a tertiary hospital for dialysis. And the selection criteria that the tertiary hospital uses is very exclusionary and very selective. And their rationale is that they want to limit dialysis to patients who will truly benefit long-term wise because it's so expensive. But in the same breath, it gives access to people of a certain financial criteria who live in certain areas.
Yes.
And then disadvantages people that come from disadvantaged backgrounds. For example, in our area, if you don't have running water in your house, you get excluded. If you're above a certain age, you get excluded. If you live alone, you get excluded. So it is disadvantageous to people of color.
Yeah, because it's also about the right to life and who has the right to life and what is the state's duty towards that right to life.
Hello, Adrian. The problem is very lack. There's limits to education in terms of health. Our hospitals, our medical or health department should be advocating this kind of disease that's happening. It's more like heart. They have much publicized or given some education, but your liver and your kidneys is very quiet. So that's the biggest problem, education. The other thing is our health facility in this country is poor, and hence the poorest of the poor suffer, and that is sad, because end of the day, health is the health services is part of our constitution to provide good health for all. Thank you, Adrian, Daniel, Devin.
Yeah, a WhatsApp message that has come through says, "Good afternoon, my name is Aldrin Simons and I was diagnosed with end-stage kidney failure 7 years ago. Thank God I have medical aid cause there was no way government hospitals would have helped me as my kidney function was 3%. I'm currently on dialysis 3 times a week for 4 hours. It's been very taxing 7 years, but by the grace of God, I made it this far." So, again, to the point that was raised a bit earlier on, is being privileged to be on a medical aid that would allow you to get dialysis if you are a patient that is of a certain criteria who would ordinarily be excluded by the state. 0614104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
It is 12 minutes now before 5 o'clock. So the SAFM University debate continues tomorrow between 6 and 7 o'clock on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon. This week's debate will see Rhodes University taking on the Nelson Mandela University, looking at the subject of social media. And the topic is in instances where a locally created owned internet application equivalent like research engines, messaging and social media platforms exist, should the state block foreign-owned equivalents? Should the state block foreign-owned equivalents of applications that are actually available and locally produced? The debaters that we have on the show this afternoon is Eletu Dila, who is a Bachelor of Pharmacy student at Rhodes University, and Anita Makaleli, who is a Bachelor of Law student at the Nelson Mandela University. And let's hear what their debate is and what it is that they will be putting forward in terms of the debate. Eletu, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. So where do you guys stand on the topic?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. The sides for the debate will be announced tomorrow, so we don't have any particular sides. At the moment, we prepped for both sides of the debate.
I thought by now you guys would have known, so that then throws a span in the works. But do you think that you're ready?
Yes, we're definitely ready. We're excited and we're happy for the opportunity.
Yeah. What do you make of the topic, though?
The topic, it's a very important topic, more specifically when we speak about how social media is and what social media does for communities and societies as a whole. I think when we dissect whether or not social media needs to be like a closed-off thing, in the sense that it needs to be like state-owned or like state-controlled, it really begs the question of communication and also begs a further question of how people can further interact and maximize the power of the internet.
Okay, that is Eletu Dela, who is a Bachelor of Pharmacy student at Rhodes University, listening into the conversation, and who will also be debating is Anita Mkaleli, who's a Bachelor of Law student at the Nelson Mandela University. Anita, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. So we still don't know as yet whether you'll be opposing or proposing, but what do you make of the topic?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I think the motion is a very interesting one and very intellectually challenging. But I think, as Eletu has mentioned, it is a very important discussion to have and to engage in, and just because of the power that social media holds in today's society, I think it's a very important discussion that we need to engage in as society and interact in order, to be able to keep up with this, the power of social media and be able to use it in the best of ways.
And also looking, Anita, at this debate, you guys are having it as the US, for instance, is voting on a bill to actually ban TikTok.
I think with that being said, I think having the US being able to or wanting to ban TikTok is actually very interesting, seeing that TikTok actually has a big influence and power in social media, and it carries so much weight in social media. But I think it is also a doable thing, as we do have countries that have engaged in such and want to create, or rather focus on maximizing their own locally produced internet equivalents. So it's a very interesting stand for the US to take.
Certainly, and we're watching that one closely. All the best, Anita, all the best to you as well, Eletu, and the rest of the team. So the broadcast will be taking place tomorrow at our Gqeberha studios, that is in the Eastern Cape tomorrow, where the debate between Rhodes University as well as the Nelson Mandela University will be taking place. It will be broadcast live as well between 6 and 7 o'clock right here on SAFM. 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
Hi, Aldrin. Tsepi here from Polokwane. The issue with police state vehicles is that sometimes it's not a matter of cars not being available. In most cases, it is said that these cars, although they are state cars, some of the officials assign these cars to themselves, and these cars can't move or be used for service because they belong to so and so. If that could be investigated, Aldrin, in most cases, those vehicles are owned by others in that police station. They can't be utilized without them. Giving permission, or sometimes these so-called owners in brackets do not allow them to be used.
Yeah, well, there's an X that we got from a rebel who says that your Aldrin, that Dimbaza police station is a mess. Dimbaza people have been protesting about the crisis at the station for many years. Please call Qele for us. People are dying like flies. And on the conversation on World Kidney Day, Bond saying that now people will see the importance of an NHI that the government wants to implement in order to assist those who are not privileged. 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032.
Well, afternoon. Well, I'm on dialysis for the past 20 years at Charlotte Macleay Academic Hospital. For the past 20 years. Actually, this year I'm 20 years. Yeah, it's a very expensive exercise, but we're getting it free at Charlotte Macleay. The only problem which I'm picking up is that black community don't want to commit to donate their kidneys. We are staying on the machine for so long until some of us are going to die there. That's the only problem. But the state, all of us are not paying. It's almost around 26 machines working 3 times a week, Monday to Saturday. We are getting food, we're getting our medication, we're well taken care of. So when people talk about the health system that has collapsed, I don't know it for the past 20 years. I'm at Charlotte Macleay Academic Hospital. Major calling from Guatemala.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
We're in conversation next with Daluhlanga Majeke, who is the head of department for the Eastern Cape Provincial Treasury. So the Eastern Cape Finance MEC Mlungisi Mvoko has allocated 725 million rand to the Scholar Transport Program for this financial year. During his budget speech, Mvoko also revealed that there are various plans by the Eastern Cape Provincial Government, its public entities as well as the private sector in the province to invest in renewable energy to mitigate the impact of electricity outages in the province. Mvoko tabled his budget for the 2024-2025 financial year in the provincial legislature in Bisho. We're in conversation next with Daluhlanga Majeke. Daluhlanga, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. How would you describe this budget speech?
Greetings, Edwin, and to the listeners at home. This is one of the hardest budgets which we've ever presented. It comes at a difficult time. Of course, one could say at the end of the sixth administration, part of the new administration, which is the seventh administration budget, one could say that. So which means that there are a lot of expectation of people
of what we needed to kind of provide them, especially to extricate them from poverty, unemployment element, which is actually there. So we fundamentally have looked to say it's important to look at the element of the education, that is the social sector, education and health, because we think that poverty is one way or the other getting implicated in those kind of avenues. But balance it up together with the economic growth part, which is what you're speaking about, and the issue of looking at our institution, including energy renewal, providing sustainable approach, and some of the investment, about 127 billion, which we've kind of pipeline investment, which needed to come through. Yeah. So
which are important, of course, for the support of businesses and youth.
Yes, critically, we've kind of looked through to that kind of a focus to say that we can't have only money allocated to the social sector. So it's important to look to say how do we ignite our economy by providing, especially the economic recovery element, and inspire a level of growth in that particular area.
Yeah.
That's why we've got two special economic zones in the province, which is Kucha, and supposed to be well known, especially in South Africa, and also East London special economic zone into it. And those are, we call it our beacon of hope in terms of the province, especially a part of industrialization, which will bring in manufacturing. By default, we then have to know then that we convert raw materials into finished goods, which by default then we're able to kind of export some instead of importing finished goods into it. And by doing that, it kind of creates jobs in a sustainable way. So there are different projects which we've kind of invested through, of course, with working with DTIC.
Okay.
And then on the youth part, I can't leave that part, because youth is a critical cog into it, and it makes a significant part of our unemployment. So if we can't have programs which look at the youth, then I think one could say then as a province we've kind of failed into it. So if you really look in terms of now over the years, we've invested in the almost 6 years or so, close to about 75.2 billion in different programs for youth development, including youth education and education part, and also some of them which are involved in presidential youth employment, close to about 4 billion, some in accelerated professional trade competency development program, which are technical skills for them to kind of do some of the work, and some of them in terms of Isikalo Fund for entrepreneurship, in Vaba, and there are different programs which including now the one which we recently established called the Provincial Economic Development Fund. So these are meant for our youth to become active in all kinds of fronts.
Thank you so much for your time. That is Taluhlango Macheke, who is the head of the Department of the Eastern Cape Provincial Treasury, and that conversation proudly brought to you by the Eastern Cape Government. It's 5 o'clock, time for the news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Internet outage hits SA and families left homeless by Mpumalanga storm. Good day to you. A significant internet outage has struck South Africa, disrupting services for thousands of users nationwide who've been left frustrated. Key Microsoft applications such as Outlook and Microsoft Teams are among those rendered inaccessible. The outage was triggered by damaged undersea cables near Abidjan in the Ivory Coast. The restoration timeline remains unclear. A number of families in 6 villages in Nkomazi and in Mpumalanga have been left without shelter following a heavy storm. The heavy wind and rain blew off the roofs of more than 58 houses. Maria Ndlovu, who lives with her unemployed husband and 7 children, says they have no place to sleep tonight. She says her children have also lost their school uniforms and textbooks. Meanwhile, the Nkomazi municipality is still busy assessing the extent of the damage. Spokesperson Sora Rapinga says they have roped in other departments to provide the necessary support. The bodies of 4 suspected illegal miners have been found in 2 separate areas on Gauteng's West Rand. 3 bodies with gunshot wounds were discovered today in Mohlakeng, in an area known as an illegal mining hotspot. A charred body was also found in Florida, west of Johannesburg. There were reports this morning that a total of 8 bodies were discovered in Florida. However, police could only confirm 1 body. The motive for the killings is still under investigation. Police spokesperson Brenda Muradili.
The team conducting the search include members from SAPS and Help 24 security drones, SAPS Air Wing, NIU, TRT, K9, as well as Florida Crime Prevention and other stakeholders. Drones and police helicopter are used as the ground forces' eyes in the sky to search the area. The cause of death will be determined following a post-mortem examination. The motive for the killing will be determined through investigations.
The IFP says their win in 3 by-elections in Newcastle and northern KwaZulu-Natal will bring increased stability to the council. The wards were left vacant following the resignation of 3 ANC councillors. The Newcastle council is led by an IFP-led coalition that includes the DA, Team Sugar SA and other smaller parties. Newcastle Mayor, the IFP's Xolani Dube.
There will be more office stability in this municipality. However, we still need the relations that we are having with all the parties. Even if the numbers were going to say we don't need anyone to work with, we'll still maintain the relations that we are having with the other parties. You know, running the municipality alone will give you an opportunity to make many mistakes because you will take decisions just anyhow. Leading with the other parties is giving us an opportunity as the IFP to be in a position to see if there is anything alarming. They will be the first one to tell us with no.
A representative of a community in Nigeria from where close to 300 learners were kidnapped last week has said it would be impossible for the ransom to be raised as the families are poor. The kidnappers phoned to demand hundreds of thousands of US dollars. The BBC's Will Ross reports.
Jibrin Kwadabe from Kuriga in Kaduna State says many of the families can't even afford 3 meals a day, so raising the ransom of hundreds of thousands of dollars is out of the question. He said the Nigerian students aged between 7 and 12 were forced to march for vast distances through the bush and were extremely weak without food and water. Mr. Kwadabe told the BBC that the gunman had told him during the phone call that they'd seized the children because military aircraft had been attacking, killing them and their cattle. The community leader said the parents of the missing children were in a desperate state, so traumatised they're unable to sleep or eat.
Top stories that a significant internet outage has struck South Africa, disrupting services for thousands of users nationwide who've been left frustrated. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Close.
Coming up in your sports this hour, city-to-city marathon back after 8 years as Kukune to battle it out with AmaZulu as they look to qualify for the quarterfinals of the Nedbank Cup. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Really significant congestion around the Melrose and Ilovo Rosebank areas of Joburg today. It's a corporate road race event getting underway a little bit later, but there are some road closures already in place. So motorists having to loop around sort of Caller Drive and Oxford Road and Glenhove Road and routes that feed in. It is all very heavy. Usual breakdown N3 south at Van Buren, heavy coming down from Marlborough Drive, and 12 reaching for the east, badly backed as well. Today's breakdown on the M1 North is a stationary bus. It's stuck before New Road, so same result, queuing traffic from Woodmead on the Mike 1 North through Buccleuch and onto that N1 for a slow trip up through Midrand. Durban, the N2 queuing both ways between Mgeta Road and Spaghetti Junction, equally heavy going north and south. And Cape Town's all fairly heavy today out through Hospital Bend, Nelson Mandela, Philosophy, badly backed up. The N1 out of town, heavy to Kuba, get a change with a queue that starts halfway back. Baton Truck trying to clear through the CBD area. Baton Truck towards elevated freeways, very slow. And the M5, a bit of pressure there now from the Kuba, get a change all the way down to Racecourse Road in the Kenilworth area.
Good afternoon. This is your captain speaking with just a little flight information. We're flying at an altitude of 37,000 feet and our airspeed is 400 miles an hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to BTH Airline. I'm your co-pilot, Aldrin Sampear, and I'm with you from 3 to 6, flying you through the turbulent airwaves. But the landing will be smooth.
So just sit back and relax and enjoy the rest of the flight.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032. So it is a Thursday and it's after 5 o'clock, and ordinarily, as we do on Thursdays leading up to the elections that will be taking place on the 29th of May, we focus on the manifesto of a political party and we zoom in on the economic proposals that they are making. So today we're in conversation with the IFP. We're taking your calls, any questions that you have for them. Maybe you want to poke some holes in the manifesto that has been launched. You've read through the manifesto or was listening to when the president of the IFP, Velenkosi Nhlabisa, was addressing members and supporters of the IFP at the Moses Mabhida Stadium, something that caught your ear. Maybe you need some clarification on it. You can send through a voice note to 0614-104-107 and X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032. And joining us today is Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi, who is an IFP Member of Parliament, the Deputy President of the party, and also its spokesperson on finance. So over the last couple of weeks, we have been speaking to political parties on the election manifestos and focusing on their promises when it comes to how they will change the economic fortunes of the country. Today, we focus on the manifesto of Inkatha Freedom Party, which launched its 13-point plan last weekend. In their program of action, the party aims to address unemployment by creating the 80-20 target for local companies, addressing access to land using Ingonyama Trust as a model, revamping the local economic institutions such as the Small Enterprise Development Agency, revitalizing Itala Bank so that it may become a state-owned bank, and for poor communities and develop private public partnerships for state-owned entities. We're taking your calls on 086-000-2032, your voice notes on 0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Nkosi Buthelezi, good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Good afternoon, Adrian, and thanks for having the IFP, and greetings to your good listeners.
I want to start off with all the political parties. Since we started this feature, we start off focusing on the question of land. I believe that it is our first heritage. It is one of the issues that the IFP is also raising in its 13-point plan, but using the Ingonyama Trust model and duplicating that Ingonyama Trust model. Why would you want to do that, considering that right now, for instance, there are two reports at least, one that was done by Parliament, which was chaired by Kgalemo Motlanthe, and the other one that was done by the presidency, which both called on the repeal of the Ingonyama Trust Act. So why would you want to duplicate that model?
I think as the IFP, we strongly believe that Ingonyama Trust Act is actually not an issue, because most of what were the reasons as to why they suggested that it should be abolished was on the basis of the administrative part of it, which is not the problem, because whenever there are issues, you don't lose sight as to what were the reasons for that very particular Ingonyama Trust to come into existence, because that is the only thing in South Africa that is there which managed, or rather only vehicle which managed to secure land for the poor people when the wall-to-wall municipality was actually demarcated. So we believe that Ingonyama Trust should be there and it should be used as a model. Yes, of course, you address the issues that are administrative related, but you don't throw the baby away with water if there are issues.
Yeah. So are you saying then rather amend the Ingonyama Trust? Because the other question would be that since the formation of the Ingonyama Trust, can we really say that some of the subjects of the king have really benefited from the land?
You've got some who have benefited in the land because there are opportunities that are there in terms of the mining and all that. But it's also true that some communities may not have benefited as expected. So you only address that part where there are shortfalls. But Ingonyama as an entity, it's a very actually noble idea that should be championed and expanded everywhere in the province.
Give us an idea where
in the country.
Give us an idea of where you see the Ingonyama Trust model could work, where there is communal land. This is now speaking about places outside of KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes, it can be actually piloted in the Eastern Cape, in where is that, in Mpumalanga province. Every province where you've got a large number of people who are traditional in nature and who actually needs to have access to land. Because what is very important, one of the issues that people are complaining about is the fact that they cannot have title deeds on the land that is under Ingonyama Trust.
Yeah, the security of tenure.
Yes, but also you must understand that from our point of view to say, Africans in general are social in nature. So, for example, I always like to make an example with myself. I'm living in a rural area. There is my father's homestead, and it's all myself and my siblings. So, if it happens that I get a title deed for that particular homestead, that means, therefore, all my siblings, all my cousins do not have a place to stay. In case tomorrow I decide to say, okay, you pack your bags and go now, I've got the title deed, it's in my name. So that will perpetuate and cause homeless, what you call people as a result of that. The approach as far as the Ingonyama Trust is concerned, and the approach as far as the ownership is communal in nature, which seeks to protect the rights of everybody who happens to be a beneficiary in that piece of land.
Yeah.
Unlike the Western way, where you buy your own house and it's yours, you just do as you wish anyhow, nobody questions you for that.
Yep. So with the IFP's model on land in general in the country, where do you stand around the ownership of land? At least on one part, it's clear that you're in support of Ingonyama Trust, which means that the tradition where land is owned by or land is administered by the traditional leaders, communal land, and so forth. But what about the entire land mass in the country? Do you believe that it should remain in the current form that it is in?
You now.
Can you hear me? Nkosi Buthelezi, can you hear me?
Adrian?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, we're going to try and redial Nkosi Mzamo Buthelezi there, who is IFP Member of Parliament and also the Deputy President and spokesperson of the IFP on finance. We're also taking your voice notes, remember, on 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032. We're in conversation with Nkosi Mzamo Buthelezi as we focus on the manifesto that was launched by Inkatha Freedom Party, focusing on the 13-point plan. But our sharp focus is, of course, on the economic proposals that are being made, including, for instance, that they say companies must apply an 80%, 20% rule, which means a minimum of 80% of the staff members must be South African and a maximum of a 20% can be foreign nationals. And then another suggestion that is being made as well is revamping the local economic institutions such as the Small Enterprise Development Agency and revitalizing the Itala Bank. 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032.
#SAFMBTH.
Good evening, Aldrin. It's Jabulani in Nkandla. I just want to find out from Inkosi Uguti, all these proposals that are making public on economic policies, etc. Why are they not applying those policies or whatever in the municipalities that they control? I'm talking about Upongolo, Zululand, Ngutu, Msinga, Newcastle, Nkandla, King Cetshwayo, and all those municipalities controlled by the IFP. Why are they not applying these proposals, or why can't they preach? Why can't they practice what they preach? Thank you.
Hi, Aldrin. Can you please ask Sheng
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mweketi.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. Hashtag SAFMBTH.
Okay, we're back again with Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi, IFP Member of Parliament, its Deputy President and also its spokesperson on finance, as we look at the 13-point plan that they have in the election manifesto that was launched at the Moses Mabhida Stadium, and we're zooming in on the economic proposals, of course, as always, starting off on the question around land. So I was saying before we got cut earlier on, is what is the IFP's ideology on land? Should land be owned by the state? Should land be owned by individuals, private individuals, or should the land be owned by traditional leaders?
As far as the IFP is concerned, we believe that there should be a mixture of ownership, where there will be some portion of land that is owned by individuals and some portion will be not owned, under the administration or control of Amakosi. That will to make sure that we actually prevent the calamity whereby individual people who've got lots of money will actually use their money to have access to land, and then at the end of the day, we've got the majority of our people not having land. For example, in my own area where I'm coming from, if you say you give land to individuals, many people will have access to that land, will control it. But when they come to experience some hardships financially and economically, they will sell that land, not because they are willing to do so, but because they are forced by circumstances. So at the end of the day, having sold their land, they will happen to be landless again and don't have any means to live. So the security of Kenya, as far as we are concerned, speaks to some section of the land being owned by individuals. But there must be the overall protection to make sure that even those that are most vulnerable don't fall into a trap of losing their valuable just because they are destitute.
What about foreign-owned land? What's your proposal around that? I've looked through the manifesto. It doesn't necessarily specifically deal with the question around foreign ownership. But is the IFP saying that it's okay with the current legislation that we have in the country?
First and foremost, the IFP was not opposed to the issue of expropriation of land. We were not opposed to that. But our problem was that there should be a minimum, what you call amount of money that is paid, or fair amount of money that's paid to the owner of the land. But we said that there must be first be a land audit. There is a lot of land that is lying there, and you can't even trace the owners of that land. So that land can be expropriated, and if the owner cannot be traced, then no compensation should be given to that. The noble cause of addressing the influence of the past and making sure that the land goes back to its original owners, which is the majority Africans, we are supporting that.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like right now, in the current dispensation that we live in, foreigners can buy land in South Africa. What is the IFP's take on foreign ownership of land in the country?
No, we don't have a problem with that one.
Okay, so if you don't have a problem with that one, how do you then deal with that aspect that you raised a bit earlier on, where you find that an individual can have large parcels of land that they own? Because we know also with the foreign nationals that will be investing in the country and buying property in the country, is that dollar can stretch much further than what our rand can.
Yeah, through the management of the land itself, there has to be a model. For argument's sake, even if you go to rural areas, there is a substantial amount of land which is not owned by individuals or the public. but it's owned by the municipality. There will be an audit of land, and then it gets decided as to say this particular land can be sold and this one cannot be sold, to make sure that there's security. So there has to be a model that needs to be designed to cater for all such things to happen. Not to say a person can just simply buy everything and anything that was got money. There must be some decision to say this far and not further.
Okay. I find that interesting also because the IFP has an entire section as part of the 13-point plan, number 3, in the 13-point plan that deals with immigration, but more specifically illegal immigration. Do you see illegal, undocumented foreign nationals living in the country as being a threat to our economy and economic activity?
It is indeed. Because
how so?
How so? I'll tell you. They are illegal foreigners. This means that they are law breakers. For you to go to any country yourself, you can't simply cross the border and you are just free to do so. There must be a process. You must come through our borders and then you must be known to be in South Africa. There is so much there that comes with it because first and foremost, they are not accounted for. We don't know how many of them in South Africa, which is a strain on our resources. For argument's sake, these people that are sick, they have to go to our clinics and our hospitals. They can't be denied the access to health just because they are illegal. But what is the meaning of that? In the long run, that means government will have a census where they say there are 100 people in this particular street. Only find that 500 of them are illegal, what you call foreigners. Then the resources that are meant for the 100 people who are on our books will be used by these 500 people who are not accounted for, which therefore put a strain on our economic resources. So it's in that sense. And some of us are here not because of any reason, but except to conduct illegal activities which undermine South Africa as a country. Every person who has a good intention to come to South Africa is more than welcome. They must come through the proper processes. Even those who are seeking asylum, they should do so, but through the normal process, as we South Africans do when we go to any country in the world.
Yeah. So what's the proposal then for the IFP? Once the IFP becomes the government of the day, what's the first thing that you do? We have the undocumented foreign nationals, some of them being employed by companies that operate in the country, and some of them actually being employed by individual South Africans as well. What's your plan? What happens when the IFP now says that, okay, now the IFP is the government of the day, this is our approach to dealing with foreign nationals? Do you ship them all out? What happens?
We are going to have a two-way where we deal with the illegal ones and all the legal ones. The illegal ones first. When we take over, we're going to give them 6 months to show themselves to the authorities or leave our shores. And then secondly, those companies which are employing foreigners illegally so, we are not going to fine them only because fines seem not to be effective. We are going to suspend their businesses. And then from now going forward, we are going to introduce a law that will prevent any company to actually appoint a non-South African, so to say, which not on the basis of a very special skill that we do not have. Because even if a person gets appointed or employed in a South African company with specialized skills which don't have, we welcome that, but we're going to make sure that there must be a plan as to how do they transfer that skill, because we can't have millions of South Africans suffering without any work and their opportunities are taken by foreign nationals.
One of the big ones as well that we've received is questions in relation to the graduate fund, the 3,000 Rand for unemployed graduates. Just quickly listen to some of the voice notes that we've received and then deal with the question around where that money will be coming from. 0614 104 107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Hashtag SAFMBTH. SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi. Because where words fail, music speaks.
Hi, Aldrin. This is Anonymous from KZN. I was born and bred here, and I just want to say to Inkos Mtelezi there that it's their turn now to be in charge of KZN again. So we want to see them in charge of KZN in the next coming election, because we want to see a difference in people's lives. So they must work hard, and we will support them because we believe in them. Thank you.
Afternoon, Aldrin, hearers of the station. You see, is one of the things that is good in IFP, the control of the border gates. Because if they promise that they will control the border gates, they will control the checkpoints. That is what we are looking for. ANC failed the issue of controlling the border gates. Now, that is why we're going to have illegal firearms, illegal drugs, all of sort of things that are illegal. We're going to have it if we don't control border gates. Tuse from Inanda. Bye.
Good evening, Aldrin. I would like to ask Velen Osinlabis if he's with you. I've heard him when he said there will be a money from the graduates. That money will be 3,000 each graduate who are not working. But I never hear him talk about the people who are unemployed, how much they are going to do for those people, because those people are unemployed and they are not working. And some of them, they are not even having matric. What is going to do about those people? I never hear him say something about those people. Thank you.
By the way, it is Inkosi Mbutelezi that we're speaking to. On that particular question, when it comes to a social grant, I know there's a push for a basic income grant. Where does the IFP stand with regards to that? Because you also need to ask yourself what's going to happen to the unemployed.
Yeah, should I come in now?
Sure.
Yes. I think the issue of, I appreciate the comments from the listeners and also the question. The issue of the 2,000, what you need to understand is that will not be a permanent arrangement. It's a temporary arrangement for a fixed period of time to assist these graduates to find a meaningful employment, because our idea here is that when they are studying, they are actually benefiting from NSFAS and all other assistance that is there. They are coming from a very poor family. When they finish their studies now and they go back to the same poverty. So we feel that for a particular period of time, they need to be assisted while looking for the job. But also, the majority of our people, we remember that the IFP has been on record to say that we cannot actually afford to become a state where everybody depends on government. So our economic drive will speak in the main to issues of making sure that there are employment. These graduates, when they finish what we call their school, they are able to get jobs, and some of them will need to be reskilled so that they get so that they are able to get the skills that the job market requires.
Okay.
So
but I think the question is more around unemployed people who don't have an education, who don't have a post-matric education, and some who don't even have a matric for that matter. But let's deal with that question just after we get the MoneyWeb update with Jimmy Moyaha. 0614-104107. And you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. It's a minute after 5:30. Time for the news headlines.
Thank you. A quick look at the headlines. A significant internet outage has struck South Africa, disrupting services for large numbers of users nationwide, as well as parts of India and the UK. A number of families in 6 villages at Nkomazi and in Mpumalanga have been left without shelter following a heavy storm. And charges against one of the 4 men arrested in connection with the New Year's Day shooting of 4 people in Soshanguve, north of Pretoria, have been provisionally withdrawn. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, it's still jam-packing around Joburg's Melrose and Ilovo, Burnham areas. Multiple roads backing up. It's a corporate event. It's a road race event getting underway a little bit later this evening, but the road closures are already in. So if you're coming out of Sandton, for example, Ravonia Road down onto Oxford's heavy. Bumpus Road linking Jansmas to Oxford is a mess. Corlett Drive, very heavy backlogs around the Wanderers. Oxford Road between Glenhove and Corlett's bad. Glenhove Road between Oxford and the Mike 1. It's absolutely jam-packed. It's really tight and backed up on multiple routes in that area. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. Otherwise, you bypass again using the Mike 1 as your alternative route for north-south travel. The N3, a breakdown at Van Buren still there. The N3 south heavy from Limbro Park. N12 and R24, it's a heavy coming from Ekurhuleni into that N3 mess. The Mike 1 onto the N1 up through Midrand. Another day, another breakdown. Today, it's a broken down bus at New Road. Result is the same. Queues, heavy queues from the Woodmead area. Durban having a pretty good run through the traffic. A little bit of traffic just jamming from Sherwood on the N3 outbound to a busy N2 north. But once you get past Sherwood, the roadwork section through Pavilion and Paradise Valley looking okay. Cape Town, the N1 out of town, that's heavy today. CBD out to Kubo, get a change. The service road that takes you out to the N7 in front of Canal Walk is quite heavy. And then the main N1 again from sort of around about Kilbeson, Paro area, all the way through to Okavango. Quite a busy one out towards that Brackenfell and Kryfontein area.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Kapele.
In your sports this hour, the City to City Marathon is back, and it's back after an 8-year hiatus. The marathon was launched today in Sandton and will see the 50-kilometre ultramarathon start from the Centurion Rugby Club, finishing at the Wanderers Sports Club in Johannesburg. There will also be a 5 and 10-kilometre to support the race at R100 and R150 registration fee, respectively, while the 50-kilometre is R300. And Athletics South Africa President James Molloy says that this is a great way for the athletes to prepare for the Olympics, and he wants it to be an annual race.
It's an iconic race. It's an international race. Everybody's going to coming from all over the world, but we want to sustain this race to be a long-term race, not just a once-off event, because it's been there before. So starting from now, we must just move, and then I'll go out of my way to try to get the corporate companies to be there, because the event is going to be televised live.
Well, then there's some Nedbank Cup action tonight. Sekhukhune United face AmaZulu as they'll be looking to qualify for the quarterfinals when they lock horns at the Peter Mokaba Stadium. Sekhukhune haven't lost any games in their last 5 matches. They registered 3 wins and 2 draws in the process. Meanwhile, the KwaZulu-Natal side has only won 1, drawn 2 and lost on 2 occasions in their last 5 games. However, the 2 sides met 5 times in history, and AmaZulu claimed 2 victories, whilst Sekhukhune won 1 as they shared the spoils 2 times. In rugby, Japan Rugby Union head coach Eddie Jones says that he was pleased to see some young players playing for England in the Six Nations Championship, and he mentioned Marcus Smith, to be specific, saying that his turn will come. The 64-year-old quit as Australia coach after his native country's woeful World Cup campaign in France, and he was hired as Japan's coach in a deal taking him through to the 2027 Rugby World Cup. In tennis, China will host the Davis Cup Finals group stages for the first time in September. The Hengpin International Tennis Center will stage 1 of the 4 groups, with the other 3 to be held in Manchester, Valencia and Bologna from the 10th to the 15th of September. Now, Bologna and Valencia will host group stage matches for the 3rd straight year, while Manchester will hold them for the 2nd time in a row. The top 2 teams from each group will qualify for the final 8, which will be held from the 19th to the 24th of November in Malaga, which also staged the round last year. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. For SAFM Sport, I'm Duming Kapele. Mudimugyo.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And it's time for a MoneyWeb market update with Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy, good evening. Welcome to the show. So looking at the Standard Bank as well as Exaro's results.
Good evening, Aldrin. Good evening to me and good evening to the listeners. Yes, Standard Bank and Exaro both reported full year results. We're going to take a look at that. I've got a conversation with the Standard Bank CEO, Sim Shabalala, about that, as well as the financial director at Exaro, Rian Kopaskar, around those numbers. We're also going to take a look at the developments out of Mediclinic. They're no longer trading on the stock exchange, but they did have some clarity around the previous allegations of billing fraud. So I'm going to speak to Mediclinic CEO around that. There was an investigation conducted and there's been an outcome from that investigation, and we're going to dig into that. And then we're also going to take a look at the private rail space in South Africa. We know Transnet announced today that they're going to be privatizing 7 of their ports, but also we've been expecting that we're going to hear from the Transnet stable around, or at least from the government as well, around the rules that are to be published around privatization of parts of the rail or incorporating private players in the rail infrastructure. So I'm going to speak to a company called Traction around that. They are in the rail space and they're the biggest private player in the African continent. So we're going to hopefully get some clarity around that and try and make sense of what that means for you and I, and hopefully guys like Exaro looking to get Transnet back on their feet. And then we've got an SME of the Week feature that we have on Thursdays, and today I'm speaking to a gentleman by the name of Raj Naidu, who owns a company called Eastern Cafe. It's actually a restaurant in Johannesburg South. So if your passport is stamped and you're willing to travel to the South, be sure to give them a visit, order from them, check them out and see what they have to offer. But before we get to that, markets have been moving and it looks as though we've finally run out of the good stuff. Henko Kriya has been keeping an eye on the markets for us throughout the day. He joins me now to take a look at some of those moves. Good afternoon, Henko. Thanks as always for keeping an eye on the markets. It just couldn't get any redder, could it?
Absolutely, Jimmy. You're so right. Good evening to you and to Aldrin, and good evening to all the listeners. It really is a bit of a bloodbath all over the show and all around the world, because US markets at the moment 0.3% weaker. We'll see where that ends, but they definitely started their day on the back foot. And then European stocks, the FTSE 100 0.6% down and the DAX 0.2% weaker. And then the JSE finished 1.2% lower and closed at a level of 73,341 points. The industrial index lost 0.6%, the financial index 1.2% weaker, and then that resources index finished 2.6% down. Standard Bank had a terrible day and it lost 7% today. AB InBev closed 4% weaker, followed by Anglo 3.5% down, and Prosus, which lost 1% today. The only little bit of green I can see on my screen is Richmond, which had a better day and it finished 1.5% stronger. But back to some bad news. Companies like Amplats as well as Exaro, they each lost 3.5% today. Then Implats is 3% weaker, followed by Sibanye as well as ARM and Goldfields. They each closed 2.5% weaker at the end of the day. But for some positive news, it went better with other companies like Montauk Renewable Energy. It gained 10% today. Then Alphaman finished 4% up. South32, 91 and Karoo each gained 3% and 91. Absa as well as Old Mutual each gained 1.5%. On the commodities market, the price of gold currently $2,160 an ounce. Silver is trading at $24.90, almost $25. Platinum now sitting at $930 and palladium at $1,070 an ounce. The price of Brent crude is $85.30 a barrel, and the rand losing a little bit of strength today, now trading at 18 rand 77 to the US dollar, 23 rand 92 to the pound, 20 rand 45 cents to the euro, and 12 rand 35 to the Australian dollar. Bitcoin still maintaining its relatively high level and still comfortably sitting at $72,500, and that is just below 1.4 million rand. That's 1,390,000 rand. Jimmy, that's how the markets are looking at the moment.
Not a pretty sight at all. We're going to dig into a lot of these movements throughout today. Joined by Wayne McCurry, our market watcher this evening, but we'll dig into that when we come back. For now, Aldrin, back to you and the team.
Thank you so much. That is Jemmy Moyaha. He's back again just after 6 o'clock. We continue to take your calls on 086 000 2032. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
We continue our conversation and focus on the manifesto of the IFP, which was launched at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. And the conversation that we're having is focusing on the economic proposals that are being made by the party. We're taking your calls on 086 000 2032 and your voice notes on 0614 104 107. And that studio line again is 086 000 2032. We're in conversation this afternoon with the Deputy President of the IFP, who's also the spokesperson for the IFP on finance, as well as Member of Parliament of the IFP, Nkosi Buthelezi, who's joining us for this conversation. So before we went to the news headlines, the voice note that we got there was speaking about what's the IFP solution for people who are unemployed in terms of the social grants, and I was making an example about the push from some political parties for a basic income grant that will also cover unemployed people.
Yes, can I come in now?
Sure.
I think the IFP is not opposed to a basic income grant, but what we are saying is that our country cannot afford that at the moment. When we go back to the issue of 3,000, I mentioned that that would be coupled by a very clear plan as to how we assist these graduates to actually get employment. But also for the masses of our people, the IFP government is going to industrialize South Africa, encourage local production and consumption. Hence, therefore, our focus in assisting small, medium enterprises, and we are saying as the IFP, we are going to introduce a local economic development grant, which is a grant specifically to municipalities to assist our small, medium businesses so they are able to create opportunities and also employ these young people who are not employed. But also, we need to understand that this can't be done in silos. We have to also address the issue of our educational system. Hence, I said some of these graduates will have to be reskilled so they get the expertise that the job market requires. For example, when it comes to our education, the IP says here we are going to replace life orientation and introduce a compulsory financial and what you call entrepreneurial literacy. Why this? So that people from a high school level, they are able to understand the financial provisions, they are self-sufficient, they are able to understand how to become an entrepreneur. So that when they even finish matric, some of them can be able to create their own jobs. For example, you go to any township, any local place or any town, you will find that in each and every corner, there is a shop that sells cellular phones and repair them. All of those shops are owned by foreign nationals. Why? Because they've got skills and expertise. They were empowered from where they come from. That is what the IFP government is going to do, to say empower your own people, give them the skills so they become self-sufficient and they rely on themselves, as opposed to be beggars in their own land.
I have to say, I love the idea of introducing compulsory financial and entrepreneurial literacy training. I think it's very important. It's fundamental. It should be done at a very, very early age as well. But why do you want to do away with life orientation when the two can actually coexist? And if anything, I believe that the two should coexist, because life orientation deals with the different aspects, which amongst others include emotional intelligence, and financial literacy ordinarily doesn't. However, though, our emotional intelligence can also influence the decisions that we take financially.
We believe that as the IFP, when you compare the two, the one that want to introduce adds more value. Some of the things here needs to be taken care of from a family point of view now, where a child comes from, because not everything needs to be entrusted to teachers at school. The parents themselves, families themselves, must be able to assist and groom their children in a manner that they are self-sufficient, they are able to deal with whatever environment that they face outside there. Then a teacher at school now must be able to give these specialized skills and expertise, which a family, like a mother or a father at home, cannot actually provide. So some of these things can be taken care of, as the resolution that said it takes the whole village to actually raise a child. Some of those responsibilities need to be taken away from government because they are parental responsibilities, where a father and a mother need to make sure that their children are actually assisted, they are developed from home.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Anonymous, who's joining us from Harrismith. By the way, I disagree. I believe that life orientation is important. It is fundamental, and it should not only be left up to the parents, because the parents themselves also face a situation, unfortunately, where some of them work in areas that are far away from home and don't necessarily have that child-to-parent conversation that is crucial, but it is because of the economic makeup of the country and apartheid spatial planning. Let's quickly take voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good evening, Aldrin. Please pass my message to Inkosi Shene that in Lowsburg we have land now. We have farms that are staying there unused. Please, they must come and help us. We need agricultural implements and we are ready to work. Please, they must come help us. Please, please.
Good evening, Adrian. You're speaking to Peggy Hadebe here in Westville. I must firstly congratulate the IFP for a successful launch of the manifesto, which brought hope for the people of South Africa. And I must say that it is exactly what differentiates the IFP from all these other political parties, that the IFP is the only party that will bring a change and a hope to the people of South Africa. Thank you, Deputy President. Shane.
Hi, Adrian. Good afternoon to everybody. And I just want to thank Mr. Shenge. The policy of the IFP, it sounds very good. And it shows that the party is mature enough to lead KZN and the rest of the South Africa. So please, praise, go out there, preach peace, and do everything possible so you can gain our people's votes, including mine, is on your IFP. Thank you. Speaking to Prince Shange.
Okay, are you convinced by the economic proposals that are being made by the IFP? 0614 104 107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086 000 2032 in conversation with Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi, IFP Deputy President and also its spokesperson on finance. Just your quick response to those voice notes, Inkosi Buthelezi, and also that question around supporting people who do actually have land. However, though, the seed capital that is required, even for sustenance farmers, unfortunately, is very high.
Yes. No, I appreciate the feedback from your callers on the issue of farming, as the listener was actually alluding to here. The IFP has a clear plan, and it's part of our manifesto that we are going to assist them, because we understand that agriculture does not only address the issue of unemployment, but it also addresses the issue of food security in our country, which is a serious problem. You know, where I grew up in Port Petersburg, we were able to actually get milk from our local producer, all vegetables from our producer, even meat. We will only see once a month, if it's month end, people coming from town, going back homes with like plastic bags, written checkers and all that. That's why some of us will call those plastic bags as checkers. It tells you that there was a clear system before, which was assisting people to be able to be self-sufficient at their own areas where they live. Hence the IFP, the policy of self-help and self-reliance. We want to instill to our people that they must be able to depend on themselves. The government must create that enabling environment for them to thrive as young businesses. We are definitely going to assist our small-scale farmers and assist them with money and all the support that they need so that they can also thrive and grow and become large-scale farmers.
0614-104-107. That is our voice note line. You can also drop me a call on 086-000-2032, and our studio line again 086-000-2032, and an X at Aldrin Sampear.
SABC Sport remembers the fallen hero, the legend of the beautiful game. Spiwe Dr. Mnandi Mkhonza, a great football analyst with a unique language that hits straight to the hearts of the fans.
Tactically, the teams are in a different level, and the quality also shows.
This former defender just knew how to draw the undivided attention of the football-loving community. Rest in peace, Dr. Mnandi. You left a remarkable footprint. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032. Let's go to Soy, who's joining us from Kings Williamstown. Good evening.
Good evening, Aldrin, and good evening to Mutelis.
Welcome.
Quickly my question, I expected you, first comment, I expected you to trade now to foreign land ownership. Because that will, as far as I can see, foreign...
Soy, I'm going to put you back to Kanya just to try and get you on a much clearer line. 0614-104-107.
#SAFMBTH.
Attention filmmakers, are you ready? It's time to showcase the vibrant tapestry of KZN's cultural heritage at the Simon Mabunu Sabela KZN Film and Television Awards, South Africa's ultimate celebration of cinematic excellence. In partnership with the SABC, the KZN EDTEA, we champion innovation, paving the way for the future of cinema. This year, we go beyond imagination. Cut, edit your 1-minute submissions because call for entries is now open until the 28th of March 2024. For more information, visit www.kznfilm.co.za or follow us on social media. Join the conversation using the hashtag SSA24. KZN Film, our kingdom is your stage.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. If leaders of IPs like Nkosi Shanga can teach their members to get away with tribalism and fight every element of tribalism, because as we know, IFP was built out of tribal alliance, and that element still exists. And some of the people like me, they don't see their place in the IFP, because I am having that notion that most people of KwaZulu-Natal think that IFP only belongs to them. If they can fight that notion, they'll get a lot of members.
I totally agree with IFP. People need to know. People need to learn how to survive. They need to learn how to provide for themselves. None of these grants. You can't be making people dependent on the government when it's not feasible. And that's exactly that's exactly what the current government has done. That's exactly what the current leading party has done. You cannot allow a society, youth. You can't have youth have a poor mindset of government must pay. No, nobody owes you a house. Nobody owes you a job. You need to work. You need to try to. If you don't get a job, you need to be able to actually find a way to make an income. Use your hands. No, thank you, IFP. Thank you.
And also its spokesperson on.
Hi, Mr. Aldrin. Mr. Aldrin, listen, man. I had a privilege to travel the KZN almost as a whole. So I just have one question for the leader there. That what are the plans for the eThekwini, because it is deteriorating in a way that if they are not aware, it will go out because the dirtiness in it and everything. And how are they planning to get back the economy back to the Zulu nation or the people in KZN? Because honestly speaking, the Indians have took all over eThekwini. If you look eThekwini and surrounding, they took over. So how are they planning to get that back? And like issues like Phoenix, how are they planning to tackle them? Gwena, thanks.
Okay. Inkosi Buthelezi, your response to those?
Very much. I will respond to those that need answer, but I appreciate the feedback again from many people who are showing like appreciation of our points that we put forth to them. But what is very important, the IFP, for us as the IFP now, it's not about power, but about to empower our people. Hence our approach to help them to become self-sustaining. So the issue of tribalism, I'm not sure of that, because the IFP is not like a tribal party. It has never happened, even from its establishment in 1975. That was something, a theory that was actually peddled by the opponents of the IFP, which now people are able to open their minds and understand better as to why the IFP exists. In the IFP, we've got white people, we've got Indian people, we've got vendors, we've got all sorts of members of the party who are coming from all over South Africa. Yes, it's true that our footprint in KwaZulu-Natal is as large, more than any other provinces, of which we are trying in other provinces to increase our footprint. And I'm only pleading with them also because they've seen that the IFP offers a solution to South Africans. As IFP is offering practical steps that can be taken to change the trajectory of our country. They themselves should become part of this family, the party of goodwill.
Yeah, but there is this the belief that the IFP is more nationalist in its focus and in its approach, and that's the reason why the parties really struggle to grow outside of KZN. In KZN, your foothold has been very, very strong. And look at the results that you just got now from the by-elections.
I think that also is coupled with one reason, that we have been in charge in KwaZulu-Natal. So people of this province are able to see our track record. They have got things to refer to. Even the infrastructure that has allowed this province to be still standing is an infrastructure that was laid by the foundation. So that's why we invite them, therefore, to say wherever we go, they must welcome the IFP. They must be part of this province so that we can even showcase what we are able to deliver.
Let's quickly take this call. Unfortunately, let's just quickly take this call from Mr. X. Mr. X, please be brief. Good evening.
Good evening, Aldrin. You're speaking to Mr. X from Joburg. Quick one. I want to know what is it that the IFP will help us to improve the infrastructure. They've been running Newcastle municipality for so many couple of years, but it's getting worse than being better. If you can ask me that so that we can have hope on the IFP.
Okay. Inkosi Buthelezi, that's the final question that we have. And please be brief in the response. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Okay. I think the issue is that we're going to invest more money in infrastructure development and maintenance and make sure that government departments make sure that they've got a budget set aside for maintenance, which has been actually lacking. But before I conclude, I want to say the following, that having addressed the issue of unemployment through industrialization and making sure that we assist our small medium businesses, and having addressed the issue of education and all other aspects that speaks to economy, there is one fundamental thing that the IFP is going to do to deal decisively with crime and corruption, because that undermines our prospect for investors locally and abroad to come and invest in the country. They need to have a safe environment, and they need to be made to assure that corruption is something of the past. So we're going to close the door behind us of corruption, inefficiency, and open a new door in front of us that will usher us into a new era of progress, prosperity, and a brighter future future for everyone.
Thank you so much for your time. Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi, IFP Member of Parliament, Deputy President of the party and its spokesperson on finance. We've come to the end of our voyage. Thank you so much for choosing Flight SFM BTH 326 with me, Aldrin Sampear. Our credits are read by Tepi from Polokwane.
My name is Tepi Wagamaloka in Polokwane. Would like to thank the team that flew the plane with our pilots, Captain Aldrin, Kanya, Temba, Dumi, Mark, Vusi, Charles. Thank you so much. The show was great as always.
What shall we do? This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Remember to love each other and lead with compassion. Dotsins, enjoy the rest of your evening.